welcome to Telling the Tale, the podcast where I, Mitchell Farley-Wolf, and my co-host Dustin Jackson say hi, Dustin.
Mitch, it's me, Dustin, and I am dying
Okay.
to get to this episode.
But I was in the middle of a sentence, so it's tough. It's tough. I love the jokes. I love them. Keep them coming.
Thank you.
But the flow is weird on this one already. It's the podcast where we're playing every Telltale video game, usually coming in episodes. And this episode is The Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 5, No Time Left, released on November 20th, 2012, directed by Sean Vanneman, Jake Rodkin, Ainsworth. It has a first name that I don't have written down, unfortunately. Sorry, Ainsworth. Designed by Ainsworth, Darren, Rodkin, and Vanneman, and written by Sean Vanneman. This is the finale of the first season of The Walking Dead. At the time, there were no future seasons announced. So this was momentarily the end of Telltale's take on The Walking Dead, something that we've been praising for the last few episodes. Now, Dustin, I hear you're dying.
Yeah, to talk about this episode of The Walking Dead.
You see that? It's pretty good.
Thanks.
I've come around on it. Sorry I snapped at you earlier.
That's okay, just don't let it happen again.
Yeah, we'll see. Hard to know where to start on this one.
What did you think? Did you enjoy the episode? Did you have a good time?
No, I didn't enjoy it, but I thought it was great. I thought I was moved significantly by this episode. I saw stuff in this Telltale adventure game that I didn't think I would see in Telltale adventure games ever.
Like zombies.
Yeah, that one really
didn't see that one coming.
That one's wild. Yeah, just in general, there's a lot of really great stuff here. Very learnable stuff for my career as a video game designer. Like, there were so many little moments, and maybe we can talk about them, that I was picking up through playing this episode, thinking, oh, I should maybe hold on to that. Maybe I can use something like that in the future.
Ooh.
Yeah, this is a really special game.
It is. I had that thought when playing through this. Maybe it's just, I mean, I always loved this game, but maybe it's just coming off of all these other Telltale games. It's insane to me that this is what followed up all of these other games we've played. Like, there's nothing like this before this in Telltale's catalog. A story that, I don't want to say Telltale never hits emotionally, but they never hit like this. I'd say the closest they came was like the last episode of The Devil's Playhouse, and even that, just blown away by this.
Yeah, the last episode of The Devil's Playhouse is sad in a, Optimus Prime dies sort of sadness.
Yeah, it's sad now. Aw, poor Sam.
Yeah, you're still dealing with childish, silly scenarios.
Yeah.
It does hit hard. It's not to take anything away from it, but I don't think it's trying that hard to do what it's doing in that moment.
Right. Although I will
The
say,
Walking Dead.
I will say, playing through this whole last episode of The Walking Dead Season 1, I couldn't help but think there should have been a large talking cockroach in it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that should have happened.
Maybe then it would be Telltale's best, but here we are.
I'm hoping that happens in the later seasons.
Yeah.
That there's a large talking cockroach in it.
Well,
that
Mitch,
just sort of.
I won't spoil anything for you.
Okay, so it does.
Wink.
Yeah. Something else about the episode on a high level before we get started talking about the intricacies. It was quite short. I had been warned it was short. I generally check howlongtobeat.com before we play these episodes, just so I know how to fit it into my scheduling. Mm-hmm. Telltale episodes are generally pretty static with the amount of time they take. So that's usually pretty accurate. Versus like action games, howlongtobeat.com on action games is only liars. It, have you noticed that? Have you used the website enough to notice that? It's only liars who say they can beat Breath of the Wild in like full playthrough, I don't know, 25 hours. No, get out of here. It's only liars on that website.
You see, I don't really look into times that deep on there, but I do use it to gauge, like, if I want to play a short game, or if I have, like, multiple games I want to play, I'll, like, look on howlongtobeat.com and I'll pick the shortest one to do first. I'm just like, all right, what's the average time? All right, this? Good, that's fine, that works.
Yeah.
But you're not impressing anybody, people on that site. I don't care that you beat Breath of the Wild in 25 hours.
It's wild that it happens. I know the impulse. That it requires to be shitty and lie like that for no reason at all. But it's like someone is just taking anonymous numbers for research's sake. No one will know what you did specifically, and no one personally is even asking you. It's like an automated form, and they're saying, how long did you take for this game? And you know in your heart of hearts it took 16 hours, and you're like, 12.
5 minutes.
And, like, you're lying to no one but yourself, but you're happy to do it. It's it's wild how much of a problem that is. With so much tracking, like player action tracking going on in video games, you'd think that Sony and Microsoft would just partner with this website and they'd say, we know the actual answer to this. It's how long to beat. Like, we have the exact average. Right. And we will not give it to you. We'll let you try to futz it out on your own. Anyway.
Yeah, it's not like Games Done Quick or anything where you're watching someone do it.
Mm-hmm. The last 2 episodes of the show on howlongtobeat.com were listed as just under 3 hours, which I interpreted to mean just over 3 hours, which is about correct.
Mm-hmm.
And this episode was about an hour and a half, and it was pretty on the money.
Yeah.
That's around half a normal episode. That's a lot shorter.
Do you think that's better or worse?
I don't think it is better or worse. I just think it's a lot shorter. So for our... I have to sort of pinch myself sometimes to like take myself out of the mindset of, well, the way you play a Telltale game is you're given a new one every week. And remind myself that the way this game actually came out and the way that every sane, regular person played it is it's either you binge the entire game, like after all the episodes released, or one per month. So if I were playing this game one per month and I were waiting for like a big epic finale, I don't know. It's possible that I would have thought its short length was
a detriment.
But it did so well in spite of that I don't know if I would have thought that. I'm having a hard time imagining myself as that sort of player.
Yeah, because this episode's jam-packed. It's like stuff happening from beginning to end. So I don't know what you could possibly add to this episode to boost its length. It's as long as it needs to be.
Right. So if we were to describe the heart of each episode so far, episode 1 is about the outbreak itself and becoming accustomed to that lifestyle.
Mm-hmm.
Episode 2 is you're there at the motor inn and you're just staying there at the motor inn, but then you have like a side story. It's a Dairy Gaiden. They should have called episode 2 Dairy Gaiden.
I agree. That's what I've been thinking for years.
Episode 3 is the road trip involving trains and automobiles. I wish there were planes.
Yeah, wouldn't that be
then you could
great?
say that about it.
Hey, well, there was a helicopter at the beginning. That's not the same, but, you know, if you want to stretch the meaning.
I do.
Awesome.
Yeah, true. It is. And then episode 4 is the Savannah episode, where you're introduced to things that kind of feel like they might have had the opportunity to go longer, and maybe in other versions of this episode, episode 5, I mean, there's versions where episode 4 stuff does seep into it, but nothing that I've seen from episode 4 really mattered that much in episode 5. Even though 5 is also the Savannah episode, but its big thing is that it's so modular, and you can tell as you play it that it can really go a lot of different kinds of ways, that every person playing it, because of the accumulated effects of all the choices they've made throughout their playthrough, is going to have, at least in some part of episode 5, a very different situation happen.
Right.
That's its thing. Sorry, I cut you off. I'm sorry. What were you going to say?
I don't remember.
It's okay.
I already don't remember. It's past, it's gone, it's never coming back.
Dustin, I gotta apologize for my podcast etiquette on this episode. I don't think I'm doing too well at it.
That's okay. This episode really puts a lot of thoughts and emotions in your head. I get it. I understand.
I am a little frazzled. I only finished playing the game about 2 hours ago.
I only just finished it like 10-15 minutes ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. I imagine that like the 5th or 6th time you're seeing this ending, it has sort of I bet you still feel the emotions, but they're a little dampened because you know what's going to happen.
Here's the thing, Mitch. Mm-hmm. My feelings on this ending are a little dampened, but it's not because of that, and we'll get to it. We'll get to it, but there's something very disappointing about this playthrough of The Walking Dead Season 1.
Interesting. I'd love to get into that.
Yeah, we will at the end. Don't worry.
Sounds good. The cool thing about this episode is that your party, the people that you've hung around with, up to this point have just sort of been determined by your circumstance. You know, Chuck's on the train, so you have Chuck now.
Yeah.
Ben's in the woods, so you have Ben now. But in this episode, it really is your choices that force who accompanies Lee on his quest to rescue Clementine from the mysterious man on the radio. It can be, we talked about it last episode, it can be Kenny, Omid, Krista, and or Ben. So between just you alone and all 5 of you, and a lot of different combinations of some of those people and not others. And this isn't particularly interesting for a podcast where we talk about our experiences, but we did have the same party going into the actions of this episode.
Yeah, the only difference was I had Ben stay at the house and guard the boat, while you had Ben drop to his death and die.
Yeah. So before we started recording, you said that you had some ideas for how you want the structure of this episode to go, or at least to keep it a little more structured. What did you have in mind? What should we talk about first?
I think it would just be best to go scene by scene like we did in some other episodes, because there's going to come a point where it's just going to vary wildly between the two of us. Something totally different happens. And I might be overselling it. For the most part, our episodes are the same, but there's one thing in particular where it's totally different. And like,
and that's only the one that you know for sure. I bet there's other things.
Yeah, there probably is.
So the first thing, the last episode ended on a cliffhanger where you're getting a call from the guy on the radio, and you're in the hospital basement where Vernon's people used to be. Mm-hmm. And you're picking up on that phone call, and the guy on the radio basically says, "Hey, this isn't kidnapping; it's a rescue."
Yeah.
So either find me or don't. I'll take care of Clementine now. And of course, Lee's not going to have any of that, or at least the way I play Lee, that's just a completely unacceptable thing.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. But then Lee faints.
Oops.
And he wakes up with Kenny about to take a saw to his arm. Because remember, he was bitten.
Yeah. Lee gets bitten in the end of episode 4. And, boy, now everyone has to deal with it. Mm-hmm.
I would love to see what happens if Lee doesn't tell the group that he was bitten
Yeah, I was thinking about that too. Like, I
when
never
he
do
faints.
that.
Yeah.
And, like, does he just find the saw and decide to do it himself if he wants? I guess that would be the case.
Oh my gosh, that's wild. Uh, and then they ask him, "Hey, why?" And then he's like, "I just felt like it. I don't know."
You know, I just felt like that other
Don't
arm
look
was
at the
holding me
arm,
back.
by the way. Don't
Look at me.
the arm
Look
I
at me in
dropped.
the eye.
Mm-hmm. There's definitely no bite marks on it, but I just cut it off because I don't know. It was like itchy.
Yeah, like they have no reason to know why you would cut your arm off. I would have to assume by that point Lee just automatically comes clean, but that would be so good if he was like, yeah, just wanted a different look.
It's feeling heavy. I need to lose 30 pounds really fast. 30 pounds. I don't know how much an arm weighs. That seems high.
That's
but,
high for an arm, but Lee is very muscular, but that still seems like a lot.
At one point later in this episode, Lee tells Omid that he is about 50 pounds heavier than Omid, which seemed excessive. I didn't believe that, but sure. Why not?
Well, Lee is this big buff guy, and Omid is, I don't want to say he's tiny, but he's probably the scrawniest one of your group.
He's certainly not like skinny or scrawny, but they've shown more buff guys than Lee frequently throughout this game.
Yeah, but he's also taller. He's taller and buffer, and I think that's a combo. I think with those combined, that kind of evens out.
I mean, he compared to Omid, he is,
Yeah.
but I don't know if he's like that tall of a guy in general. He's shorter than Kenny. He's about Lily's height. He was shorter than some other people. I was like, he was shorter than the St. John's, I think, and that's when I noticed like, oh, Lee's not like the biggest guy.
Mm-hmm.
But also that sometimes just happens with protagonists in video games for some reason.
Like Banjo-Kazooie.
Yeah,
where
Banjo's
everyone's
a big one.
just giant compared to you.
Yeah, and all the fan art of Banjo makes Banjo kind of like a bigger bear, but I just like the idea of like, hey, look at this stupid little bear going around.
Yeah, Banjo always struck me as like heavier, but he's smaller than like every other character. He's like half the size of Humba Wumba.
Yeah.
This is getting a little off topic, but I'll never.
Yeah, it's not really about The Walking Dead anymore, huh?
I'll never turn down the. Let's just do a Banjo podcast. Fuck this.
Fuck this. we for some reason don't like this episode. We don't want to talk about it.
No, let's get back to it.
Honestly, there is part of me that kind of just doesn't want to talk about it. And it's not because I don't like it. That has been the past in certain other podcasts. I've always powered through for you, the listener. But in this one, it's just, I don't know, it feels kind of personal. To like, your choices are very naked here. And
that's true.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels a little uncomfortable for me to talk about it, honestly.
Mitch, we don't have to talk about anything you don't want.
No, that's not true.
That's
we
true.
got to talk about all the episode. So you wake up and you realize, hey, the idea of cutting your arm off, kind of a real idea. But you can still say no.
Yeah, you can still tell him, no, I like having this arm. So what
did you do?
I always chop the arm off.
I had Krista cut the arm off.
Yeah. I think it's so funny, the scene leading up to it, because, so Lee says, fuck it, chop it off. And then it just shows Kenny and Krista both looking at the saw, just silent.
Yeah.
Kenny says, it was a lot easier when I thought he was out. They're just like, well, you do it. And Krista finally steps up.
So Krista does it, and I wondered, like, are they really going to do it? Or if I do it, are there going to be immediate consequences? And there kind of aren't. You just do it, and then your character doesn't have an arm anymore, and that's just how it is.
That's just the way things are.
It's his non-dominant arm, they say, so you can still do a lot of stuff, like carry things and grab onto things and climb a ladder.
Yeah, Lee says, that was my least favorite hand anyway.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's one of the options.
Yeah.
The other was, it actually hurts pretty bad.
I guess that is a more understandable response.
Yeah, I think I picked it was my least favorite arm anyway, because, good jokes.
Yeah, and then
But
he immediately follows up with my favorite thing. He says, "But seriously."
that did feel sort of Destiny. But seriously, folks, let's get back on track.
It's even funnier because no one laughs at it. But let's get serious.
So the idea behind cutting off the arm is that you spread the virus through your body slower, or at least get rid of enough of it that maybe it doesn't take effect. No one is quite sure, like in the group, whether or not it fully worked when you did it.
Mm-hmm.
And spoiler alert, I assume that you've played through this episode and are not weirdly playing through the episode as listening to the podcast. That's strange. Or you've decided not to play through the episode, also valid. But it doesn't work.
Yeah.
It might slow it. I really wonder what happens if you just go through this episode with 2 arms. I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, because they say it slows it down, but I would have to assume for the sake of pacing of the episode, it just, that wouldn't be a factor.
Yeah, I think it's just sort of like a last... More than giving you the opportunity to actually slow down the infection, I like it as an opportunity to just have Lee be able to say he tried something.
Yeah, exactly. I totally agree. They did something to try to stop it.
Just to have a character who's not in denial about it, because every single character who's about to change in the history of the show or game has either completely been in denial about it, or had someone else in denial about it, like Kenny was with Duck, or became immediately suicidal, like Katya, or became immediately like angry and shifty and tried to hide it. I'm sure there's someone who did that. It's not coming to mind right now. But the idea that, like, hey, you know what? I've been trying to play Lee as a more mature answer to this scenario. I should just be like, I'm going to try my best and we'll see. And I'm glad that they gave me an option to do that.
Agreed. And even if gameplay wise it doesn't actually slow it down, like narratively it could. Like you could still be like, oh well, Lee probably would have died sooner if I didn't do this, even if that's not really the case. You know what's something I noticed? That arm that Lee left back there has a pretty good watch on it still.
Yeah, but like, where are you gonna put it?
He has another
if
arm.
You keep it. But can you imagine your watch being on your other arm? Gross.
You're right. Forget I even brought it up.
In my version of the end of the game, and we've talked about how this is different from you and I, me and 68% of players removed the arm. So an overwhelming majority removed the arm.
I think that's how it was for me too. It was 62% of players removed the arm, but yeah, basically.
Pretty close. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So you're like climbing up the ladder of this hospital now. You're trying to get to the roof because there are creepy crawlers outside everywhere.
Come on, Mitch. Don't you start.
Yeah, there's shifters all around the hospital.
There's great googly mooglies out there.
Yeah, there's some real sprinklers going on outside.
Okay.
Yeah, they're getting worse, but
that's pretty. That's a pretty good.
You can't just walk out. Is the point?
Yeah.
So you're on the roof. Thankfully, no one is else on the roof. There's no zombies there. There is and this is a good like moment that they give you just to talk to each character, see where they're at, because you're allotted a little more time in this scenario.
Yeah, I like this a lot. I never like stopped to take that in on my past playthroughs, but I do appreciate that. This episode hits the ground running. You're in a not great situation, so it is nice to be able to be up here on the roof and kind of talk to all of these other people in your group, see where their heads are at.
I especially like the Kenny conversation you
Yeah.
can have here.
I have it written down in my notes, specifically Kenny.
Yeah. He's talking about how he's just really beat up about losing his family, obviously. Who wouldn't be? But he keeps talking about it, and then you realize, oh, he's talking about Lee now. He's talking about, he's beat up about losing his family, Lee.
Yeah.
And I think that has some weight to it, because Kenny, throughout the game, has always been like your friendliest asset that you've had. He is smart, he is strong, he can do a lot of the stuff. But he has had this very opinionated base to him that doesn't quite let him and Lee exchange honest friendship with each other.
Yeah.
And this moment right here on the roof of the hospital is really good for that.
Agreed.
Yeah, but there's a bell tower next to the hospital, and you know what those do.
Yeah.
They attract all of the skrunkers from all over town to the base of the bell tower. So they're going to try that in order to maybe thin out other areas of the town so they can go through there on foot. And they do. Yeah,
they do. Good for them. Watching my roommate play this part, so the part where you have to jump back to the building after you ring the bell. He failed this so many times.
Okay.
Not to sell him out, but I'm kind of selling him out. So Andrew failed at it multiple times. And then when my other roommate Adam did it, he just does it on the first try.
Yeah, I did it on the first try. Sorry,
Same.
Andrew.
Yeah, sorry. I these segments are hard.
Well, yeah, it probably isn't Andrew's fault. We've talked before about, especially on Jurassic Park, how the QuickTime events are just not completely locked in on a design level the way that they're going to be in future Telltale games.
Yeah.
They get better at this.
Yeah.
But for now, they can be rough sometimes.
Yeah, I wouldn't say these QuickTime sections are why I love this game so much.
Yeah, I really wonder what it is. I wonder if it's...
They're better than they are in Jurassic Park. I want to give it that much credit, but it can be wonky from time to time.
Yeah, I mean, this game is just a better game than Jurassic Park, but the thing with the QuickTime events, I wonder if there's some aspect of cold feet on the part of the game directors looking at this game and just saying, like, is it really okay if it's just a game about choices? And trying to incorporate some action elements, some set piece elements.
Mm-hmm. I think it's fine, just because, like, I don't know, it kind of helps mix things up a little, have some action in it, like shooting zombies, things like this, jumping across the way. Even if they're not done, like, perfectly elegantly, I don't think they, like, hurt the experience at all.
Yeah, I don't think they're detrimental, but I also don't think they're adding anything, and the game could be leaner and maybe stronger for it, but yeah, I mean, like, I didn't hate it. I'm sure Andrew did.
Yeah, he made that very clear. That was not his favorite part.
I can imagine. For those of you listening that don't know our friends Adam and Andrew, I can really imagine Andrew just, like, not being happy at all.
I was surprised. He liked this game a lot, and I guess I don't know why, but it just never struck me as either of their kind of game. I guess I don't know why I thought that. It just, it never occurred to me that they would like it so much, and I'm glad they did.
Yeah, it's a good game. It's just a good one of those, but I also just don't think it's the kind of thing either of those people would go in for very often.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it makes sense. After you do the hospital bell tower jump thing, you go back to the mansion you were in last episode, and you find that the boat that you had in the thing, Vernon took it.
Yeah. So, because you didn't have Ben there, how did this go down? Did they just see it wasn't in the boathouse and they're just like, ah, shit. Well, damn it.
Well, Kenny had been talking like, hey, let's get the boat. It's time. We'll find Clementine, but like, we really got to get this boat in the water and get it ready to go.
Mm-hmm.
So they open the door and it's simply not there. And then Omid finds a note from Vernon. Did this happen with you?
No.
Omid finds a note from Vernon saying, hi, me and the other cancer survivors, and we feel really bad about this, did take the boat.
Sorry.
That's why I was asking about Clementine, because we were gonna even offer, Clementine could come. But yeah, we need the boat, and sorry.
Sorry about that.
And then you're given the option to say, oh, fuck them. Or be like, well, they did have cancer.
Guess
Which
I
felt
can't
like
be
a weird,
too mad.
like everyone here is dying.
Yeah.
Don't bring that into it now. Like they just took your boat.
Yeah, think about all the people who died recently that don't have cancer.
Yeah, it seems like the cancer people are surviving the longest. So maybe it's good. Like don't even.
But that's so funny that's how it went down. Do you want to know how it went down for me?
Definitely.
So, as you know, I left Ben to guard the boat.
Yeah.
And this is why, is because I think this scene is so funny, but it also leads to one of my favorite scenes in the episode. So you come back to the house and you hear rumbling around inside the shed. You hear Ben being like, hey, come on, let me out. Jeez. You open the door and then you just see Ben standing there with no boat. He looks so defeated and he says, don't get mad. The boat's gone.
I can imagine that being really funny. Yeah, that's good.
Boy,
Your Ben voice that it does not sound anything like Ben is very accurate somehow. I'm not sure. It's not how Ben talks.
Yeah, it's not doing his voice, but it is exactly the energy he had.
Come on.
Let me out, jeez.
I'm just Ben.
Zoinks.
He's got some Shaggy to him.
He's 100% Shaggy. But Kenny doesn't think this scene is very funny. He starts flipping out on Ben, and Ben starts getting irritated at it too. Ben's like, Kenny, come on, lay off. And Kenny, he kind of quiets up a little and he says, Lee should have dropped you back in Crawford. And Ben loses it. He flips, he yells, fuck you, Kenny. And Kenny's like, whoa, shit. And
yeah, I just told you to die. Like, why are you getting mad?
I didn't see that coming. Jeez, Ben, it was just a joke. But Ben really lets Kenny have it. He's and everyone lets him just go off. He's telling Kenny, look, I'm sorry about what happened to your family, but I don't even know what happened to my family. I didn't get to say goodbye to them. They could be dead or they could be alive or walkers or whatever. And he says, so give me a fucking break. And so Kenny's kind of like, oh, gee, I guess I never thought of it like that.
I guess I've never thought to ask you a question about anything ever.
I guess when it comes right down to it, I didn't necessarily care how you were doing.
Maybe we're the Walking Dead.
Oh, maybe we're the wolf among us.
So
I think that scene is great because Ben has been a joke up until now, and boy, after last episode, he just fucks up everything he does, and then this episode, he gets overpowered by cancer survivors. They take the boat, then you just see him in there, slouched over, with no boat in there. But then he finally stands up for himself against Kenny. It's very, it's both very funny and very satisfying seeing him, like, actually grow a backbone.
So when you were describing this just now, I was thinking in my head, like, oh shit, does Kenny kill Ben in this situation? Because I could
Like, does
see
he
it
get
happening
so
after
mad?
how mad Kenny gets at Ben for seemingly, in my opinion, we talked about our difference of opinion on this,
Hmm.
very unfair reasons
So,
to me.
so you thought Kenny would have just straight up murdered Ben like Lily killed Carly here.
It seemed, well, not like that, because Lily killing Carly seemed a lot more stress based. Like, Lily felt like she was put into a corner, I
Hmm.
think, and just had to let it go. And we know that she has some supposedly genetic anger management issues where
Right.
she's not in charge of a lot of her own impulses.
Hmm.
Kenny, I think, would have been a cold-hearted. I've thought this through. And
This is the way
I'm
this is
sure I'm
going
making
now.
the right decision. Ben dies now.
And everyone in the group would have been like, "All right, I get it."
Man, yeah, I'm not going to stop being friends with Kenny over this.
Yeah, no, but Kenny and Ben have a little moment and it's great. And then they move on. They go into the house. They go back into the mansion to get out of view of these walkers. Omid's just like, "Hey, maybe we should get the fuck out of here first."
Yeah, yeah. Um, so a bunch of walkers. You then you go inside the mansion.
Hmm.
This is where you spend a lot of episode 4. I don't like being in this mansion. I think that um, limiting my exploration outside is something that I'm realizing I just don't like in adventure games that much at all.
You don't like being
Unless
inside?
it's, I don't like it when they put me in interiors because generally it means that I'm outside of the larger puzzle space. Um,
Okay.
I mean, if it's a game like Maniac Mansion where like the house is the thing, well, that's fine. I'm not like in a place. That's the house just is the space.
Hmm.
But I'm thinking about being in the sewers in the last episode and how much I didn't like that.
I
Um,
feel that. I think it's.
yeah,
I think it's specifically something I can see not liking in a game like this over a game like Sam and Max, where like, you go inside a bunch of places in Sam and Max, but like puzzles and solutions are still in. You can just freely leave. Like here in a story like this, this part of the story is you are inside. This is where things are right
yeah.
now. But in Sam and Max, you can just go from building to building, and you're like, oh, here's a boxing glove. Oh, here's a bowling ball. These will come in handy for puzzles elsewhere. Um,
Yeah, and Sam and Max has done it in the ways I don't like it, where they like lock you in a 1 or 2 room environment for a
mhm.
bit,
Yeah.
and I just don't enjoy that. But I think we're getting at a really weird point of our journey through Telltale's games, where I'm not sure if that's even a legit criticism anymore. I'm just we've done so many of these that I can't exactly tell if the things I like and don't like are even real. I
Yeah,
like do I is dislike being in interiors a real anything? Like
I
is
guess
anyone
not.
going to relate to me on that?
I guess not for a game like this because that's just where the story is right now. Like the puzzle
Yeah.
is this. This
Yeah.
is what's happening in the game. It would be the exact same outside as it is here inside.
I guess that's true. But I also know that like it didn't feel that bad when I'm stuck on the roof of the hospital
Hmm.
because I know that the goal of the game right now is to get off the hospital so I can find Clementine. And the goal of the player is always going to subconsciously or consciously be get to the end of the thing I have to do, right?
Yeah.
So if the player goals of I should find Clementine and the character goals of I should find Clementine both involve getting off of the hospital roof, so like we're aligned. And in this moment in the mansion, the player's still thinking, well, I gotta get out of here eventually and find Clementine. But the
Hmm.
characters are now thinking, well, I should hold up. I should hole up now. In
I
this mansion. And it feels a little bit like a disparity of in-universe and out-universe goals.
kinda. I mean, the way I see it is they're inside to get out of the street from the walkers, and they're gonna talk about what they need to do. Like
Right.
they don't even like right after this you kind of start getting swarmed by walkers, but the goal wasn't to come in here and just stay here. They were I would assume that the reason they came in was to be like, all right, so now we're safe from these walkers. What the hell do we do about Clementine? Where should we look? Etc. Etc.
Mm-hmm. There is something that I wish I knew. Maybe you'll be able to tell me. What happens if you leave the kid in the attic alive? Last episode. Because the
Oh.
walkers on the street flood into the mansion and they force whoever's left up into the attic.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's like the one place in the mansion that the walkers are too stupid to access.
Yeah, do you mean like what would like Omid and Krista, how would they react seeing this
Yeah,
walker kid up
would
there?
they see your pet zombie, or would that have been taken care of later in the last episode?
I'm not sure because I always kill it. I guess I don't know what would happen.
Yeah, that's one for the books.
This walker kid isn't a threat, so maybe they just kind of let him crawl around.
Yeah, just sort of
they bring him with
trailing
them.
its gross walker juice.
They make
everywhere.
him part of the group and bring him along.
Yeah, we've named him Chuckzo, and Chuckzo is now part of the group, and he's sort of a mascot kind of figure.
And if you don't like it, you can just fuck off.
If you don't
Shut
like
up.
it, you can kill him in an instant, and it won't matter that it won't be that different.
None of us will be that angry with you.
Yeah, we just thought, oh, that's like a beautiful dead kid. We should probably keep it.
Why didn't they put him on cans of rice or whatever?
Should be on the box art. Yeah, so I don't know what happens there because I also killed the kid. Mm-hmm. So for me, the entire gang is Ben still with you at this point? You'll have to let me know when something happens to Ben.
Oh, I'll let you know. All right,
because I won't know.
Not only is Ben still with you, but in that scene with the walkers. Oh, so does Lee drop his gun down?
Yeah.
There. What? How does he get it back, or does he leave it?
He leaves it. He doesn't get it back.
So if you have Ben, he gets your gun for you. He says,
"Oh, nice."
He says, "You dropped this down there. I'm not really good with these things."
Ben, you should try. I mean,
well,
give me mine, but you should have yours.
Well, I think he does have his, but
okay.
I think he does have one in that scene if he's there. Because, the whole group is shooting at these walkers who are moving in. But, yeah, you drop your gun and Ben scoops it up before he goes up into the attic. And he's like, here.
Yeah, I'm not aware of when I would use the gun later if I had it.
Yeah, me neither.
Because you get a gun later that isn't yours.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll get to that. But
we also see Bree. One of the walkers is Bree. Who comes to the house.
Sort
she
of
crawled
an
a long
unceremonious appearance.
Yeah, she just... I think it's neat. She just shows up, she's just part of the walker crowd, and then you take her out.
Yeah, I put my cursor on Bree, it said, kill Bree, and I was like, oh, it's Bree, and like by the time I even registered that, I had clicked the trigger.
Ooh, whoops.
So it didn't feel like much of a choice or anything to me. It's like, oh yeah, well, okay.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I know all the Bree lore now.
Yeah. She was alive, she died, and then she died again.
Yeah. I have not allowed myself to feel any emotions about Bree.
I bet you're glad now. Think of all the Bree fans out there who were devastated.
Yeah, I'm a lot like Vernon in the last episode, who, after you return to the house, explains to Lee, when Lee says, hey, I'm so sorry about your loss with Bree, Vernon says, you know what? The worst part about it is I feel like I should feel devastation, and I just don't. I was broken up when my family died. I was broken up when they took all my friends. But now I'm not feeling anything. And I'm like, yeah, no, me too. I get that. I don't care about Bree at all.
Yeah, specifically Bree.
Yeah.
He's like, if it was anyone else, I would be devastated. But Bree,
yeah,
kind of mean.
Not feeling any emotions. If they made the Emoji movie based on my emojis about this moment, there would be no characters.
You'd be the meh emoji.
I'd be the meh emoji at best.
Voiced by Stephen Wright.
Is that true?
Yes, that's very true.
I was about to say I should see that movie. I should never see that movie.
Yeah, that's the right one.
um, so they find out. Or wait, okay. Am I skipping something? What happens next?
They go up in the attic and they find out they can break through the wall to get to the
Oh, okay,
mansion
right.
next door.
Before that, though, you and Kenny have an argument.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
You just get yourself holed up in the attic, and everyone takes like one breath, and then Kenny's like, "We should talk about what happens if Lee turns." And I wrote in my notes, Kenny is the master of wrong time conversations.
It's true. I guess
Kenny,
there's never...
You can't just wait a second. Like, I've been fine all day.
I guess there's never a right time to talk about this stuff.
Sure, but you can at least be like, okay, is everyone fine? Okay, I see a couch there. Let's sit down. I think maybe we should have a difficult but frank conversation. Kenny's just like, well, I see you're barely closing the door on the attic here. Let's make this really tense right now.
Yeah, that's our Kenny. That's the Kenny we know and love.
Yeah, I get why you need to do that for the like audience emotional reaction thing, but it's somewhat unbelievable that a person could be this antagonistic to your time. He just hates the fact that you need any time. You have it. You seem fine in the attic. Like you can be there pretty much as long as you need to be, until the thing that Kenny is worried about happens. You turning into a walker in the middle of the attic, because, as you've addressed, Lee is the most built out of everyone here. He could probably take them on in a one-on-one walker-fueled altercation.
He's no Larry, but,
Yeah. But they... so, during
Did you
the
lose your
fight-
temper? Did you lose your temper with Kenny in this scene?
So, I saw that was a choice, and
It seems
didn't
like a
exactly
weird
know what
choice.
it meant.
Yeah,
as
so
a choice.
it's that part with the statue. You can either grab it and chuck it at the wall, or Kenny will do it.
Like, you can just wait?
Yeah, if you wait. I'm guessing you did it then.
No, I did it.
Okay, yeah, I didn't, but that's only because I knew. It doesn't make any difference.
I think every episode has one of these for me where it's like, I don't think this choice works the way it's designed to work.
Yeah, there's no difference in who does it.
Well, it's not just about the effect on like the story or whatever. It's also like you're trying to guess if I am being made aggravated by Kenny. I am. But also, I don't think I would do this, even if I was aggravated by Kenny. So the fact that like I'm just given the situation where there's no no option. I'm just looking at the statue until something happens or doesn't. It's like, well, I guess I have to do this. So it doesn't feel like a choice for me, because if I really was actually making the choice, I would have not thrown the statue.
I get it. I get it. And it does kind of prompt you. It just shows the statue and shows your reticle. So it kind of tricks you into thinking, this is what you're supposed to do.
The reticle's flashing red like you're running out of time.
Do it!
Yeah, like Kenny's gonna shoot you unless you do something. And then you'll have to actually restart it like a regular player death. So yeah, this is my moment of the episode that I'm going to complain a little bit about with the choices. I think they're trying so many things with how they're presenting these choices that I really like. The fact that some of them don't land so well doesn't particularly upset me.
Agreed. I didn't think this episode would have been so much better without that weird statue part. But I get it. I agree. I 100% agree with you.
It reminds me a lot of the choice in episode 3, where you can choose to save Omid or Krista first. And if I knew that was a choice, I would definitely have saved Omid first. First of all, he wasn't mean to me. Second of all, he's got a bad leg now, and I know that.
Yeah.
But, like, they put Krista right in front of you, and they don't make it look like an either-or situation, so I did Krista first. And,
yeah,
like,
they should have done it the way they did Carly and Doug, where it, like, shows it from Lee's perspective, and it shows both of them and lets you know you can look between the two.
Yeah, it centers the reticle, like, by default in the middle of the two, rather than just on one. But in the Krista or Omid train choice, it was just on Krista and like, okay, I think this is the thing to do, so I just do it. I think I'm being timed.
Right.
And yeah, there's about one of those in every episode of this game.
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that they get better at that as they go on. Because it's frustrating being given a choice like, well, that actually wasn't my choice. That wasn't what I intended to do.
Yeah.
There was one of those as early as I think episode 1, and maybe episode 1 didn't have one actually. Now that I think about it, episode 2 for sure did though. And it's just for a game about choices. That is the only real like major technical detriment I'd say this game has.
Did we ever talk about how Andy St. John looked like Alec Baldwin?
No.
Okay.
We did now.
Yeah, so let's move on.
Did he?
I thought he looked kinda Alec Baldwin-y. Not like identical, but kinda. I got vibes. I said that looks
Cool.
like the guy from The Cat in the Hat.
Is Andy the one that went with you to Jolene's camp?
No, that's Danny. Andy's the other one.
Oh, I can't picture his face then.
Okay.
I'll just assume Alec Baldwin.
Yeah, from The Cat in the Hat.
Yeah, 30 Rock, Cat in the Hat, those two things and none others. So you throw the statue at the wall, or Kenny does, and it breaks through the wall and you realize that it's back to back with the neighboring house. You can break your way through this wall and that's your way out.
Yeah, Lee straight up says, this wall ain't shit.
He does say that. I like that. This wall's not even putting up a fight.
Come on, Wall.
Come on, Wall.
Make this a little difficult.
Just giving it all away for free, Wall. So you go... the other three that aren't Lee, because Lee only has one arm and is also, you don't want to exhaust him too much because there's risks there. They all take turns busting through the wall, and Lee has this opportunity to now just spend the time talking with the other three, two at a time. And it's nice. It's a really nice moment. Just to air some stuff out, air some grievances out.
Yeah, not just a time to take it easy and breathe a little, but you get to actually have conversations with these guys. Like a group conversation. Like, when one's breaking down the wall, there's at least 3 others all discussing. Ben's just kind of off to the side, kind of sitting by himself. But
Is he?
Yeah, he doesn't participate in these conversations.
Oh, that's a bummer.
You talk about him. You talk about Ben. But he's just
I'm sure he can hear you. The attic's not that big.
Yeah, so you
doesn't
have to...
Ben fucking suck?
Man, that Ben, huh? I really should have let him die in Crawford.
Ben's just petting the zombie kid that they left up there in the other universe where that happened.
Ben's just like, all right, well...
Yeah, I'll be friends with this guy. This guy's way less mean to me.
This guy hasn't said a word I disagree with yet.
Yeah, I also think in this moment, I had the option to tell Omid and Krista, hey, you two should probably take Clementine.
Mm-hmm.
And that was hard for me to choose. In fact, I at first said something that sort of led away from that, saying like, hey, you should just make sure Clementine's okay. And they're like, what do you mean? And then I was like, if I die, you should take Clementine.
Yeah, either way, you gotta tell him.
Yeah, you have to. Did you choose that?
Yeah, I always tell him to take care of Clementine.
They're the perfect people for it, if it's not you.
Yeah. Kenny, not so much.
Yeah, Kenny's not an option.
Yeah, Kenny's proven he's not fit to take care of a kid. Ben's proven he's not ready to take care of anything.
Yeah, if Ben's in the conversation, it's not Ben.
Yeah, you left Clementine there to watch Ben in the last episode.
So you break through, and then you break through into the bedroom of the neighboring house, and there's a couple on the bed in their bedroom, and they had shot themselves in the head in order to prevent the the virus from getting them.
Mitch,
and it's a pretty sad moment.
Yeah, this part really fucked me up this time. I feel like in the past it doesn't really affect me. I'm just like, oh, I remember this part. Oh, it's time for this part. But this time, I don't know. I was just like, oh, that's not cool. That's not great.
Yeah. The specific thing it's drawing to mind for me is that scene in Titanic where the boat is sinking and there's an old man and an old woman and they're just sort of hugging each other in bed and they're like, I know we're not getting out of this. Let's just be here and be with each other and wait it out. And it's a very logical thing. And I chose to have Lee just be silent for this. Like, I don't know what I would say about this. At one point, Omid says, think of how much pain they prevented. Which I really like. I sort of expected the episode because, like most art in most like pop culture stuff, it's never going to glorify suicide. It's never going to go out of its way to say like, oh, well, that was a good idea. But this episode, I think, was sort of brave enough to look at this and go like, well, in their particular instance, like, yeah, of course, they did a pretty all right job of getting themselves out of a situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although I do like that Kenny, right after that, Kenny kind of goes the opposite of that. He's saying he's talking about how they shouldn't have done it. So it's kind of neat that you have two characters with two different perspectives.
Yeah, Kenny's an interesting character because for all of his negativity, for all of his grumbling and sort of footsing with everyone else in the party, the core of what he is optimistic.
Although, in the last couple episodes, that optimism's challenged. They really kind of frame it as, like, Kenny could probably off himself at multiple points. Because, like, at the end of episode 3, he shows Omid the train controls, and he says, in case something happens to me, you should know this. Obviously, that's could just be, look, it's uncertain what's going to happen. But to me, it kind of read like Kenny saying, I don't know if I can keep going on, so if this happens, you're going to need someone to drive this train. Right. And then in episode 4, you have the part with the attic, which doesn't end with Kenny committing suicide, but it kind of felt like for a little bit, for at least a couple seconds, when Ben's like, hey, something's up with Kenny, you should go up in the attic. It kind of is like, oh shit, did Kenny do something not great? And obviously he didn't. Obviously there would not have been enough time to do something like that, but it does kind of, I think that's kind of the thought they're trying to provoke. So it kind of feels like they're saying Kenny could commit suicide if he wanted to, and he probably does want to. And then in this episode, he's like, no, that's lame, that's icky, I don't want to do that.
Well, that's interesting because you could, I think, read that as a character trait of his less favorably and say like, oh, the only reason he didn't is because he was too scared and like grossed out by the idea. Which I don't think I choose to believe is why, because even through his being challenged with everything, with his family passing away and his having to look at Ben still,
life's hard.
He's definitely way more depressed, but his plan of action is still always entirely based on optimism.
Yeah, because getting a boat and get out of town.
Yeah, there will be a boat because there has to be a boat, and he's not just saying that to like reassure himself. I think there's an aspect of him that really believes that. Like, they never really go into religion, like what religion some of these characters have in this episode or in this season, really. But I would not be surprised if Kenny's specific take on religion is very much like things have to work out because they were supposed to. And it reminds me of a lot of more traditionalist Protestant Christianity of like, God has absolutely a plan for me. There's no way that isn't true. I can have everything bad in my life happen to me, and that'll suck, but that won't even really change my core belief of, like, well, this plan sucks, but it is a plan, and it's leading to something.
Yeah.
Kenny never backs down from that.
Good for him.
Yeah, until a certain part later in this episode. You go out through
I'm excited to hear about this.
Yeah, so you go out through the balcony of this this couple's bedroom, and you're like rooftop hopping for a while, and there's a couple fake outs of like, oh, are you gonna fall off this bridge between rooftops? Nah.
You're good.
You're good. It's fine this time. And then there's like an open skylight later on, and Kenny pats you on the back like an idiot. And you drop your radio, the one you've been using to talk to Clementine's captor, into the room, and it's just a completely dark room other than this light that's shining down. You see the radio. It's completely obvious to you. You can get it, but it's like a full story and a half tall room. You can't just go down and then get back up. There's no ladder or anything. And Krista decides, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to jump in and get it.
Mm-hmm.
Is this still up to date with what you did?
Well, tell me what else happens in this scene. Let's talk about it a little more.
So Krista jumps in and gets the radio and then reaches up, and then the party can't reach her. So you're looking around at the rooftop really fast. You're like, is this a bucket? Bucket won't help. Is this a piece of plywood? Nope. And then you find a pole. It's like, okay, well, I'll grab this pole, and then she can grab onto the other end of the pole, and we'll pull it up.
Okay.
And you try that, and it almost works, but then she falls again. And she falls with the pole with her, and it clanks against the ground in a loud way, and all of a sudden you see that there are walkers in the room.
Oh, no.
So it looks like Krista, like, you just simply can't reach her. Might be done for, but then Kenny just jumps in and says, you know what? He was talking earlier, and I think this is important to note, that when they were sleeping together in the RV, Katya every night would tell Kenny, like, I can't get over how little you care for everyone else here. You're just thinking about this family. And then Kenny said, like, well, family's the most important thing. But then Katya would counter, like, these people will die if we don't also help them. And with Katya gone, Kenny realizes, like, yeah, I should have listened to her the whole time. She clearly had the right idea. So then immediately after he says, I should be like trying to help other people more often, he's like, well, I can't say all that shit, and then back down from it. So he jumps in to boost Krista out of the room. And Krista is saved. But there's really nothing they can do for Kenny, and the walkers get him in that room. And that's the end of Kenny.
Interesting. I got something to tell you, Mitch. That's not at all what happened for me, even slightly.
Wow, even slightly, huh?
Yeah.
Is that the first time you've heard that?
I had seen it before. And that's how I knew that this would be entirely different. So for me, what happened was, when you get out of that room...
Ben's fault that the radio drops for you.
Well, it's not the radio that drops.
What? Okay, yeah, no, keep going.
So you go out through the window, but once Kenny steps off of this balcony, you see it's kind of coming loose. Mm-hmm. And then Ben steps onto the balcony, and the balcony breaks. Ben falls down into the alley below.
The alley, so not a completely different place.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not once do I go into this room you were talking about.
Whoa, okay.
So, yeah, Ben drops down into the alley, and they're like, ah, shit, Ben, whoops. So Lee and Kenny go down a ladder on the side of the building, like a balcony on the other building next door, and they go down to get Ben. And Ben's like, I'm okay, I'm fine, don't worry about it. But then they uncover some of the debris and they see that Ben has been impaled on a metal bar sticking out of the ground. Like, just going right through his abdomen.
And he's saying, don't worry about it?
Cool. Well, he doesn't know. He doesn't see that this is how... He thinks his legs hurt. So you're kind of like, Ben, you're not doing so hot. And so they try to pull him off of it, but it's just not happening. There's no way Ben's getting off of this metal bar. Because anytime they try to pull him off, he starts screaming in pain. And there's walkers, like, all around. So his scream of pain lures the walkers in. And they start closing in on them in this alley. And Kenny's like, Lee, you get out of here. You gotta save that girl of yours. I'll take care of this down here. And so Kenny stays down there, and he shoots Ben through the head so he doesn't get destroyed by these walkers. And you don't see what happens to Kenny. You kind of see him fighting off the walkers, but you are going up back to Omid and Krista. So you don't see what happens to Kenny, but you hear the gunshot of Kenny shooting Ben and putting him out of his misery. He says he made sure Ben didn't feel any more pain than he had to.
Huh.
Yeah, so...
If that was true, why didn't he just, like, really quickly do that and then leave with Lee?
I guess he just didn't think about it at the time. I don't know. He was fighting these walkers off. He was like, Lee, you get out of here. You got this little girl to save. I'll make sure. Maybe he wanted to make sure like he definitely couldn't get Ben out of there because he only shoots him once the walkers start like really coming in. So
okay.
You don't see Kenny like get bit or anything, but you do see him kind of start getting swarmed by these guys.
Yeah, you similarly don't see Kenny die in my one either, because Kenny, the room is so dark, you can't see anything in it other than just like this one like sort of god ray of light from the skylight. So the walkers like push him into the darkness, and then at some point he just stops talking.
Yeah.
And Lee has the option, because Omid said what happened to him, like a child, and Lee has the option of telling Omid he probably ran away.
Yeah, you can say that here too.
Absolutely not true.
Yeah, he says maybe he got away.
Yeah. Omid, you child, you rascal. So in the Kenny death scene, Kenny dies no matter what, and then also if you have Ben, this is when Ben dies.
Yes,
I guess.
This is where Ben meets his end. He got hurt on a big pole.
I think I like yours. Well, I like the action of mine more, because I think I have a lot of questions of like, well, Ben, why didn't you just kill him and then go? And like, I don't see why you were caught up with all these walkers. You could have just left.
I'll link you the scene after we're done.
Does it make more sense in motion?
Yeah. Okay. I like it personally. I this is part of why I always say Ben, because I just feel like everything that happens to Ben in this episode, I prefer over not having Ben in this episode.
Okay. I think I like yours more thematically though, with Kenny sort of adopting Ben as his family.
Yeah. He helps him out. And, yeah, he's trying to help him off this metal pole, but all of them just kind of realize, look, this shit ain't happening. And when the walkers are coming in, Ben says, please don't let them get to me, before being cut off by Kenny shooting him.
It's very selfish.
Yeah, he should have let Ben finish.
Yeah. No, what I was saying is, Ben, come on, don't make demands.
You're in no position to be asking anything of anyone.
You have used all your sick hours, Ben.
You lost the boat.
Yeah, now you get a cough. What do you want? So at that point, no matter what, I assume no matter what variant of the party you brought, it's now Lee, Omid, and Krista no matter what.
Yes.
Even if they didn't come with you at the beginning, because they'll just be at the house.
Yeah, so I would assume that they would still come with you now.
Yeah, going back to the house is kind of... It's not lame. Do you know what I mean? Like they sort of make this narrative promise at the end of the last episode of like, ooh, you've brought your own party into episode 5. It could be very different now.
Mm-hmm.
And that's true for the hospital scene, and then the hospital roof, and then you go to the mansion. And then in the mansion, you're all together again.
Yeah. But I get it. I mean, you wouldn't want to just say, like, Omid, Krista, this is where we part ways. Sayonara.
Yeah. I mean, the Ben being alive and Ben being different seems like a much bigger... I didn't even mean to say alive and different.
Alive and different. I guess different would be...
Yeah, different than alive. I didn't even mean to say that, but like that seems to have more of an impact on the narrative of this episode than who you bring at the end of the last episode, and that just, I don't know, that feels a little hollow to me. I don't love that.
I feel that. I think
I was
it's
expecting it to have a big difference, and I was expecting us to have a talk about like, okay, so what does that mean? But it didn't seem to matter.
I apologize for really building it up. It really is just that one scene. But you gotta admit.
No. I'm not even talking about that, because we had the same party. That's the choice I'm saying.
Okay.
Seemed not to matter that much. And that's the thing that kind of felt like it would be a big deal.
Yeah.
Ben's death being very different is a big deal. And I'm glad you told me about that. That's cool. But him taking Kenny with you also sort of bottlenecks it. So like, okay, now the game knows I'm Lee and Omid and Krista. So the choice structure, I think it always feels legit. They've never made it feel like, so you're going to go with me to the lighthouse versus, so I'm going to go to the lighthouse and you are also with me going to go to the lighthouse, which are the choices in many choice-based video games, because it's hard to make all of the different content that could happen based on you actually going to the lighthouse in a different way
right.
than another player. It's difficult. It takes a lot more time.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, what even is a lighthouse made out of?
Yeah. I would be asking that the whole... I would just say, fuck this, let someone else make this game. I don't know lighthouses.
I can't make this game because I don't know what a lighthouse is made out of.
I don't know what a lighthouse is. You expect me to have 2 people there? Yeah, right.
Yeah, it's more like a heavy house at that point with 2 people in it.
Hey! You got the jokes.
But yeah, I don't know what happens on the roof if you have a different party, but it's not like the party that you brought to the roof does anything different.
Mm-hmm.
The party structure might have a very different... it might have a very different effect on you losing your arm. I could see that happening.
Yeah, I think so. I think that scene at the hotel would be, not at the hotel, at the in the hospital would be very different depending on who's... I can only imagine how that plays out if you only bring Ben with you.
Mm-hmm.
That just feels like none of that adds up to me. Like, first of all, why would Ben be the only one Lee brings with him? Second of all, how could a group
Ben will not cut off your arm.
Yeah,
for you.
Exactly.
No chance.
He will watch as you do it. Maybe.
He won't watch.
Like, I can't look.
Yeah.
I think the strongest Shaggy vibes I got from Ben was in that scene where he's yelling at Kenny, because his voice cracks so much. He's like, so give me a fucking break! And I was like, you guys had to have known when you did this.
Yeah, he's got like the Letterman jacket.
Yeah.
Shaggy doesn't wear one of those, but it's still very Shaggy-esque somehow.
He has like the same posture, same like proportions, his face and hair.
Yeah, his hair's equally dumb.
Yeah, he has that talking dog he brings with him.
Yeah, he eats only tall sandwiches. Only sandwiches that are taller than they are wide.
I know what you want, Ben.
You want a big sandwich.
You want a big sandwich.
So we should move on, I suppose. Yes. After Kenny definitely dies and maybe Ben dies,
mm-hmm.
You, Omid, and Krista reach the end of this row of houses, and you can see the Marsh Hotel in the distance. And there's a rickety sort of sign between the two buildings that you're about to cross. And you know you need to get to the other side in order to get to the Marsh Hotel.
Yeah.
So you have a choice here of going first or letting Omid and Krista go first. I let them go first.
Ooh, spicy. I went first on mine.
Okay. Tell me why.
I don't know. It just
Neat.
it just felt right. I don't know. Like anytime I get to this part, I just think, well, obviously I should go first, but then I don't really have any reason for it. It just feels like the right thing to do, I guess. For me anyway.
Krista at one point says, Omid's the lightest, so he should go first. And I, the player, just agreed with that. Like that makes sense to me. If this sign breaks, it's going to be because someone is on it that is too heavy. The amount of heavy it can take might be really low. It might be even below Omid's weight, but if it's somewhere in the middle of us, I don't want to be the first one and then break it for them.
Yeah.
So
that's what happened to me.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, Lee goes first and then the sign just breaks after him.
Just immediately?
Yeah. Well, while he's on it even, so you kind of have to he doesn't fall, he grabs onto the part that doesn't break off.
Gotcha. So for me, Omid crossed it no problem. Even with his bum leg. And then Krista gets on, and she's about halfway across, and then it breaks on Krista.
Okay.
So they're on the far building, and I didn't cross yet. And I assume that's exactly the reverse for you.
Yes. Lee is on the opposite side, and they're on the other side.
So I've been going first. You tell me what happens in yours after that.
I mean, I think it's about... Do you mean specifically that scene, or what happens?
Yeah, like right after that.
He tells Omid and Krista, he's like, well, you can choose what to tell them. I told them to get a boat and, like, get out of here. This city sucks. Meet up with Clementine. And they say, okay, fine.
I told them, hey, fuck it, I'm just gonna drop down and fight my way to the hotel. You should...
Oh, that's what my guy said, too. I said, fuck it, I'm going for it.
Yeah, because I think there's an alternative choice there that says, I'll figure something out. And I don't know what that would mean. It doesn't look like you're going to figure anything out. It's just a big jump. You can't do it. Maybe they can. Maybe it gives you like an exploration choice and you look around and then you find a ladder and like, ooh, you did it.
Now everyone gets to go.
Yeah, you can have a happy ending in this game, didn't you know? No, but I did that. I dropped down. Before that, I'd said, you wait around for Clementine near the train station. I told her near the train station.
Yeah, I think that's... No, I said get a boat.
Yeah, you said get a boat. So
I think train station would have been the better choice. We've already established the boat situation.
Well, I mean, the train situation's pretty bad, too, because they said all of those thousands of walkers they lured into the town were following the sound of the train.
Oh, that's true. I guess there just is no good situation.
I mean, yeah, it's kind of the thesis statement, right?
Yeah.
But at this point, you do split up, and it looks like Omid and Krista are going to be okay, but they're separated from you. You don't know. And Clementine is still your objective. So you drop down into the street, and you're hatcheting people straight in the face. And I think this is kind of like the big, you've grown into really good at this moment of you can just walk through a storm of walkers. And you've just become good at it. So you're just knifing people in the face, and it's enough to get to the other side pretty much unscathed. We talked about the superheroic nature of Molly in the last episode, and Lee is starting to feel a little bit like that too in this scene to me.
I think so too, but I think it's mostly because what does he have left to lose? He needs to get to Clementine. And he's already been bitten, so he has everything to gain and nothing really to lose in this situation. So I did buy him just hatcheting zombies in the head.
So there's a long history of talking about the Mary Sue problem on the internet in a very sexist way.
Mm-hmm.
And uh, it's a fraught conversation. It often has people arguing in bad faith. And the generalization of what happens is you have characters like Luke Skywalker or whatever who can do pretty much whatever they want with the Force by the time they're completely trained. And then, or Anakin Skywalker for the Obi-Wan Kenobi, whatever. And then when Rey comes along and Rey is like the new best person people have seen at it, the fact, like, it only now starts to become a problem for a lot of people that the
Mm-hmm.
power level has grown this large because Rey is a woman, and there's like some subconscious thing of like, oh, I don't want to be explained to by an SJW about like, oh, the woman's even more powerful than the guy here. And I think
Mm-hmm.
it's just it's always a load of crap. It's always hard to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the worst part of the internet. But it does sort of prime you for when a conversation comes up. It's like, well, they just found Molly, and Molly is so much more powerful than any other character in this entire world has even been shown could be.
Mm-hmm.
Not even is. Like, at their max potential, Lee couldn't possibly measure up to Molly.
Yeah.
And like, if in the last episode, Molly was doing stuff like what Lee's doing now, cutting through the horde of zombies, in situations where she doesn't even have to. She's just like, I'm sure I'll be fine.
Mm-hmm.
And gets to the other end, is like, yeah, I was fine. uh, I'm just really good at this. And I think this is a similarly powerful moment for Lee. Like, I've become this good at taking down zombies, but feels different because he can't do anything else.
Yeah.
Like, this is really just the last option he has.
Mm-hmm.
So I brought up the Mary Sue history thing just because I think the game is sort of asking you to consider Lee becoming a Molly, and my immediate reaction to it is it was not fine when Molly did it. It was sort of lame when that happened, and it is earned when Lee did it.
Yeah.
But you know, I'm very aware that like there's immediately well, the man did it and it's fine, and the woman did it and it's not fine, and I'm having just second thoughts on it. I'm just trying to analyze my own thoughts and see what I actually think about the whole situation. But that's why this is a podcast. You get that in real time, folks. You get
Aren't
all
you
of
guys
my
lucky?
thoughts that don't go anywhere.
You know what I think it comes down to for me? I think it partially comes down to the fact that Molly, whenever Molly shows up, her attitude makes her seem like she's so cool. She's like Kenny starts attacking her and she says, "Back off, Grandpa. I'm cool, Molly." And with Lee, he's not saying a word. He has to do this. I do feel like if it were a female in this exact situation, it would be just as earned as when Lee does it. And if it was a guy in Molly's position, it would be just as lame.
Well, yeah, and I think I agree with you for sure, but I think that there's the danger of not actually knowing how much it subconsciously affected us.
Yeah.
As well. That sort of thing. I'm just saying it for the record. Just sort of putting the thought out there that like I understand that this is a potential thing to look at internally more and ask myself why I felt this way.
I feel you.
But yeah, there's also like Molly's character design is different than the entire rest of the characters. Like she's got this badass haircut.
Yeah.
And
I also think it has
she's
something
dressed like
to
a
do
Pokemon trainer.
I also think it has something to do with how long you've spent with Lee. Like, you know Lee, you know this character.
Mm-hmm.
And Molly just shows up and she's immediately jumping from rooftops, taking out walkers. She's just got this nailed, like, as soon as you meet her. And
yeah, it's like 3 months in, too. It's not that long.
Yeah. So I do think, at least in this one instance, it comes down to other circumstances.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I feel like, at least I like to think, like you said, you know, I don't know how deep that runs, but at the end of the day, I do think it just comes down to different circumstances between the two characters.
Yeah, I definitely expected her to see her this episode. She's still in the city, probably, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you spend the entire episode in the city, so you don't see her. You don't see Crawford at all. That's another thing I was talking about. This is what I was
Yeah.
talking about with episode 4. That stuff just doesn't really lean in. Vernon's presence is felt when he steals your boat, but it's not like he's just not there, and you don't get the boat back. So it might as well have been anyone that stole your boat.
Yeah, but it does make it hit a little harder that it was someone you had this prolonged experience
Yeah,
with, I think.
that's true.
Like, it wouldn't, if you got back and it was just, oh, some rando came and stole this boat, then it'd be like, okay, cool, that sucks. And now I'm just pissed off. But here, it's like, okay, well, you have this character that you knew you talked to and you know their reasoning for stealing this boat. It sucks, but I get it at the same time. I think it just wouldn't have been as good if it was just some guy.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm not saying I dislike it. I'm just saying it
Mm-hmm.
does feel very cut off from the rest of the world.
No, I think I
Because of that stuff.
understand because
Yeah,
nothing your group of people, no one is really changed that much at the end of episode 4.
yeah.
And I don't necessarily think that's a problem. You know, it you don't want to fall into like, okay, well, in this episode, obviously someone has to die.
Well,
Um,
mine Ben changed a lot for me.
oh yeah, Ben did die in yours. I
Well,
guess
he
for
started
you it did
alive
have a
and
bit.
ended up different.
Yeah.
So, in that way, there was quite a change. And obviously, we're all heartbroken about Bree.
Oh, obviously, yeah.
Um,
I
yeah, I mean,
forgot for a
I think it
second who Bree
works.
was.
In these kinds of post-apocalyptic shows, and I'm going to say show here because this game is acting a lot more like a show.
Mm-hmm.
So much of the episodic nature of those shows comes from treating the setting sort of like an open world video game where like there's a little sprinkle of activity over here and there's a side quest over here, and every like set piece is designed for its own little moment, and you don't know
Right.
which order the players are going to come to. It feels a lot like that, but in show form. And
Mm-hmm.
in the game they try that a little bit, and I think they should, because you know that this is ultimately a game based on an IP that exists before it. It's based on a show and a comic book. It's not making this world from scratch, even though it effectively feels like it sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So it's emulating that structure a little bit in episodes 2 and 4. 2, you have an adventure on the dairy. It's very self-contained.
Yeah.
4, it didn't immediately feel self-contained, but the Crawford thing was self-contained.
Mm-hmm.
The episodes 1, 3, and 5 are the beginning, middle, and end of a very important arc regarding Lee, and that I think works very well, and it makes the successful. I think you were initially very hesitant to call episode 2 a filler episode, but also admitted that there is some truth to that, and I'm now
Yeah.
on your. I now feel what you're feeling with that,
Yeah,
having seen the rest of the episodes.
because it is very standalone. Like, things that happen in it tie into, you know, things that happened later on, but you know, like, that is kind of its own thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um
I think the dairy is extremely successful in the context of now having seen this entire season. Crawford is not as much. It's cool. It's got some cool stuff to it. It's doing some stuff that I'll remember. And I
Yeah.
think at the end of the day, that's pretty good for a zombie game. I don't
Yeah.
remember most of these zombie games.
Yeah, think about like when we played Jurassic Park, how there was just like no, like all the episodes just kind of run together. And I kind of feel like those episodes 2 and 4, even if they aren't like the most important, even if they don't like directly tie into this overall arc of Lee, I think it does a good job of helping to separate the episodes that do.
Yeah.
Because Jurassic Park, like it just all bleeds together into one story. I couldn't tell you what happens in episode 2 or 3 or 4. Like, I remember the events that happened, but I don't, like, remember, okay, well, this is episode 3, this happens here. It's just all the same stuff.
Yeah, it's very similar. It's very much all the same. Um, remember the helicopter pilot's name?
Uh, Decaf.
Yeah. You see, that's a hilarious name, and it took a while for you to remember it.
Yeah, even then I was like, oh, I gotta think about it.
Yeah, because I was trying to remember it this entire time, and then I eventually remembered it, but the whole time I was trying to remember it, I was thinking, like, I know it's a silly name that I should definitely remember.
You want to know something? You want to know something funny about that? That's the only name I remember from Jurassic Park. I don't remember anyone else.
I remember the main dad-daughter combo's last name was Harding.
Yeah.
Decaf, obviously. Decaf's not the one that ended up being the bad guy, but like the big burly guy who sacrificed himself. His name's Oscar.
Oh, right. Yeah, I couldn't, for $1 million, I couldn't have told you his name. I remember the character, but yeah, name, I could not tell you.
The daughter's name is Jess. The dad's name is Jim.
Yeah.
Or Jerry? Wait.
Jimbo?
Wait, is it Jim or Jerry? And I can't tell you the girl's name, like the Costa Rican woman. I can't tell you the doctor's name.
Is it Nima?
Nima sounds right. Oh, like a fish. Yeah, she says
Finding
that.
Nemo.
She gives you like a mnemonic device.
Yeah, like
for
the movie.
player.
Like
you
the
know,
movie
like
from
fish.
Pixar.
He means little fish.
Finding Nemo.
And then like the main guy who turned out to be the bad guy, his name's so funny. We made fun of it.
Yeah, and now I cannot even remember. That Jurassic Park just makes so little of an impression.
Oh, I gotta remember that guy's name. It starts with a Y. I want to say Yamper. That's the Corgi Pokemon.
Yamper.
That's not it.
That's a
it's
different game.
Something
entirely.
like Yamper, though, right? It's okay. I have my notes in front of me. I'm gonna look. I'm just gonna look because I can't think of it.
That's so interesting.
Cut me off
to
if
me
it pops up in
Yoder.
your head.
William
Yoder.
Yoder.
Yeah, his name's Yoder, and we forgot it.
I can't. Well, to be fair, that's a name that doesn't come up very often.
Yeah, and then the doctor had a name that's not important.
Yeah, she dies. Who cares?
Man, that game is just not. It's clearly getting to something, right? Because The Walking Dead exists, and we've talked about it for 5 episodes now.
Yeah, it really does feel more like it stemmed from Jurassic Park than I'd say like Back to the Future. Or anything.
Yeah, it's like the whole structure of Jurassic Park is the whole structure of The Walking Dead, except choices.
Yeah, except for the cool stuff.
I guess it's not just the choices, because although all the stuff from The Walking Dead is in Jurassic Park except choices, the quality of all of it is just so much lower.
Yeah.
And I think we've talked about this a number of times on past episodes, but when you have a narrative-focused format like this, the story being good is the thing.
Yeah.
So you can have exactly this thing and like a different writer for dialogue, and all of a sudden the game goes from a 10 to a 2.
Yeah, well, time enough to get to that.
So you don't like... I forgot that you said this. Something happened that you don't like. Are we there yet?
No.
Okay.
I'll let you know when we get there.
Okay, so you split up with Omi and Krista. They wait at, for you, the boats, for me, the train station. But then you fight your way through the horde of zombies, and then you're at the hotel. This is the hotel that Clementine has been saying she knows her parents are at this whole time. And it's also, you're given this indication that it's also where the guy on the radio has taken Clementine.
Yeah.
So you go in, you find the room that he might be in, And
Yeah, I was thinking about this. It's like you just happen to find the room in this big, massive hotel. You're like, I bet
yeah.
he's in that one.
Yeah, they even show the hallway outside the room. So I'm like, okay, well, there's a lot of rooms to check. And then he just walks up to one. And I was like, oh, thank you.
Yeah.
I didn't
Well,
want to check these.
maybe they left out the part where it shows him checking every room beforehand.
He checks, it takes 10 minutes per room. And
This is 3 days later.
yeah. But he just walks up to the right room, and something's in the closet he can't tell. So okay, there's a rope. There's like two closets, and their doors are looking at each other. And Lee can tell something or someone's in the closet. The doorknob of one door is tied to the doorknob of the opposing parallel door.
Yeah.
What does this do? What's that mechanism for?
So the way I think it works is it looked like the doors do not open outward, they open inward.
No, I made a point to check on that. They do
Oh.
both open outward.
Okay, well then in that case it doesn't really make much sense because then you could just open the door outward and the string would loosen.
At least the one on the right side from the perspective of the camera that they have you look at it.
Mm-hmm.
At least that one definitely opens outward.
Yeah.
Because it's like a shallow closet. You can't open that door inward. Also,
I'm
closets
remember
never open inward. Like in
Yeah.
general, have you ever seen a closet? You can't because they're always small.
That's true. Now that I think about it, I don't know. I don't know. I didn't look in the closet doors well enough. I wanted to say it looked like it could have been like a closet with doors that, not like sliding doors, but kind of.
Okay.
How would you describe them?
They
fold like they fold like accordions when you push them out.
Okay, I don't think so though.
Yeah, I would need to forget I said anything. It's stupid.
No, I thought it was good.
Oh,
I
thought it was good, and then I was shot down.
Yeah. Well, so the thing that really confuses me is like, okay, well maybe the point was supposed to be they both open inward, which makes the rope taut. If Clementine, because Clementine's in the closet, that's spoilers, I guess. If she tries to open the door inward, it would pull the rope, and like she couldn't pull the door open.
Right.
But she opens the door on her own later on.
Well, the rope fell off. It like somehow was loosened up on the doorknob because it does fall off of that door first before she comes out.
Oh, does it?
Yeah.
I didn't even follow that. Okay, yeah, I think that this needed another pass. This needed another details pass.
It's a situation where I can tell there's some sort of logic there. They wouldn't have just done it if they didn't think this through. But I can't quite wrap my head around how it works.
Yeah, there's two aspects here that like both don't work. The first is what is the actual mechanism with this rope that keeps the doors from opening? And the second is what loosens the rope?
Yeah.
It just naturally it happens to be when Lee's sitting there.
I might need to watch it again and kind of analyze exactly what happens. I mean, at the end of the day, this is splitting hairs. It really does not matter in the long term, but yeah, it is weird.
Yeah, this is a thing about video game design where it's like, this doesn't matter. And if I were watching a show with this setup, I would have been like, oh, that's sort of silly. But, you know, someone messed up on set. It should have been done a different way. But with a video game like this, your thought process is, I need to behave myself in this hostage situation. So I'm thinking everything's a clue, everything's usable. So I'm trying to think like, well, is this rope important at all? And it isn't. It's just meant to be like a lock.
Yeah.
Just lock a door, man. Just like have.
But
Lee
then
try
how's
it,
Clementine
it's
gonna
locked.
get out?
Well, if the rope can fall off, Clementine can pick a lock with a hairpin or something. Like, Right? Like, if it's just something that happens, then it can be anything.
I don't know if Clementine knows how to pick a lock, Mitch.
I don't think she has a hairpin either, but,
Yeah.
like...
So there goes that.
But the rope is tied there and just falls off for no reason. Like, that's a bit further than just like, I don't want to fuss about the details. It's like, well, that's like this is an adventure game. I'm all about opening locked doors. This is like, opening locked doors is the bread and butter of what made Telltale a remembered company through Sam & Max and Strong Bad and Monkey Island and Wallace and Gromit. I've opened so many locked doors in Back to the Future, and in this game they're like, no, this one just sort of opens.
This one's
given enough time. This one's a timed locked door, and the timer is a rope. And I'm like, how does this? Yeah. So okay, Mitch, you're right. It's silly. It's just nothing.
I gotta be 100% honest with you. I'm not saying this to belittle your complaint. I think you're right to complain about it. But I want you to know that before you brought it up now, I never once in any time I've ever played this game thought about it.
Well, that's why we need each other for this podcast.
You're right. That's what you bring to the table.
Yeah, because if you weren't here, Dustin, I wouldn't have brought it up either. So
yeah, they would have just gotten away with it scot-free.
If you weren't here, I would have just been like festering in a corner, not talking into a microphone, just talking into the air.
And I would have been blissfully unaware.
Yeah, I might have called you later and say like, hey, you don't need to know this, but I was thinking about a rope recently. And you'd be like, well, that's dark. And I'd be like, no, not like that. It's just a hostage situation.
Oh, that's okay then.
That's better.
I'd say, Walking Dead Season 1, Episode 5.
So we're 1 hour and 40 minutes into the podcast. We should talk about the big reveal.
Yeah, how did you feel about this?
I went through a lot of emotions with this very quickly. So I was trying not to guess all of my guesses for who the guy on the radio was to you last episode.
Mm-hmm.
My biggest guess that like I still didn't think was going to happen, but I thought could happen, was the guy on the radio is Clementine's actual dad.
Oh, that's right. You brought that up. Yeah.
Did I bring that up? Okay.
Yeah, you said it.
Yeah, that was the thought. Like, he's in the right place. He knows Clementine. He would be the person that can trick Clementine like that. Maybe he went crazy after. Maybe Clementine's mom died, but he didn't. Something like that.
That's funny because that's not that far off from what actually happens.
Well, yeah, you can tell later. Like, her parents were actually there. But they just became walkers like everyone else.
Yeah, but I just mean with this guy.
Right. Oh, yeah. My second guess was that it had something to do with the murder that Lee committed before the game started.
Ooh. That would have been good.
Regarding that, did they say it's a senator candidate or something like that? He murdered...
Yeah, I think so. Senator of some sort.
Yeah, he murdered an important guy. And I was wondering, like, is this his brother? Or did he somehow not die when Lee shot him and maybe he's been in a coma and wants revenge on Lee specifically and doesn't want Lee to, like, impact other people that he loves, like he made the mistake with his wife about. So, like, he somehow found out Lee loves this little girl now. Well, he loved his wife and still fucked that up, so let's solve that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was neither of those.
It was neither of those. Let me just say, I'm pleasantly surprised with who this is.
I was too. Did you have any other guesses, or were those the only two?
The only other guess I had was that it would be really actually a completely random guy that has just sort of been following them. And the reason that I figured that they might do something like that is just to emphasize the instability of the social structure of this world.
I mean, that's basically what happened with Jolene in episode 2.
Yeah, like another Jolene thing, because if they're fine doing it with Jolene, maybe they're fine doing it again.
Mm.
It's not quite a random guy. It's still pretty close to that, but you are connected in some way. This man is the man who the party stole goods from at the end of the dairy episode. It was his station wagon that you got all the food and stuff from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Boy, what a twist.
So, never would have seen it coming.
Yeah, I didn't want to even hint at it. And you know what's interesting is this is a change that these later versions made that I actually like. Originally, in the original release of this game, they had the station wagon out in front of the hotel.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I don't
so
think I would have picked up on it.
I don't think I would have either, but I just think of someone who would have, and I think it hits harder when he has to tell you who he is. Like I think I don't know, it feels a little less interesting if you see that car out front and you're like, "Oh boy, gulp."
Yeah. Well, I kind of like that, though. Maybe if it was very hidden, but if there was some way of, like, oh, look at that car in the background. Is that the same?
Yeah.
Oh, who's to say?
That might have been the best way to do it. If it's like just far enough that you can't really tell, but then once you're like told, you're like, "Oh shit, there it is."
Yeah. I also probably would have just initially assumed, oh, that's a reused asset. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not necessarily saying anything. They just needed a car, and they remembered they made a car earlier.
Yeah.
Um,
I just think if you have to have it one way or another, I'm kind of glad they took the car out, just
Sure.
because it does make it hit a little harder here. But I can honestly say, in the original release, I never picked up on it. I never knew that was his car out front.
Was it
Once
prominently there out front?
it's been so long, I don't remember exactly where it is, but I think it is just like right in front, because in these later versions, once you get to the hotel, there's just like a little circle, like a little oval spot where there's no walkers. And I'm like, I guess that's where the car was.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. You can walk right through that, and I did remember a car being there, but maybe it was a different car. I don't know. There was a car of some sort. I certainly didn't pick up on the fact that it was a specific different car that I stole from earlier, because as soon as that happened in that episode, I wrote it off as something I'd never think about again. Well, I mean, I'd think about the narrative impact of it, but I'm not going to care about this guy's car.
Yeah, you didn't think the people would ever come back.
Yeah. To remind the audience, I did not steal from this car.
I also did not steal from this car.
I believe my reasoning at the time might actually kind of bite me in the butt now. But my reasoning at the time was I would totally normally steal from this guy's car.
Uh-huh.
But I had just finished explaining to Clementine why I had to kill the dairy farmer brothers in front of her.
You wanted to show Clementine you had some humanity left.
Yeah, I have the ability to do some good.
Yeah.
And if she's looking at this situation and she's thinking the guy might come back, she's sort of already made up her mind of what's good and what's bad. And I realized, oh, you know what? No matter what, I'm just gonna try to match her right now.
Yeah.
So I didn't push it too hard. I knew that we were probably gonna get food some other way, and it turned out it's just because the people that did steal from the car gave it to us. Because it would be silly to not steal from this car, which was my initial thought. So there's nothing you can do that will stop Kenny and Lily from stealing from the car. And now that makes sense because, well, you have to have this guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who would play through this game and guess this. But it does make more sense than any of my guesses.
Yeah, I thought it was great. I specifically remember when Adam did it, he was like, "Oh, fuck that." And I couldn't he was laughing about it, so, it was more of a fuck that in a that's cool, but also what the fuck sort of way.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know. I could see someone not gelling with this twist, but I personally thought it was really good.
Yeah, it's a very minor character kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the point they're trying to make with this scene, like the moral of the whole thing is that even though you think you're just doing what you have to do, everyone that you step on, they could be having the worst day of their lives. Which is definitely true about
Yeah.
this guy.
Mondays, am I right?
Yeah. Dustin, do you want to run through what this guy's backstory is?
So, the deal with this guy, the stranger they call him, because they never tell you his name.
I call him Station Wagon Guy in my notes.
Station Wagon Guy.
Hey,
That doesn't roll off the tongue, but it's fun
I've got
to
a
say.
station wagon.
That was his one thing in life.
He talks like Mitch Hedberg. I've got a station wagon.
I've got a station wagon. So he sits you down. He has you at gunpoint. He has you give up all your weapons. Then he tells you. He says, "Remember a few weeks ago you stumbled upon a station wagon? Well, that was me and my family's station wagon, and you stole all our stuff." So he took his son out hunting. And I guess there was some sort of accident there where he came back without the son. It's implied the son died. So that was strike one for this guy.
Yeah.
His wife was like, "Oh, you silly, you killed our son." And then things only get worse because people stole their food. He says, "I could have won her trust back if you all didn't fuck us over." Because that was the last step. That was the last straw for her. Both her and their daughter took off. They left because they were so hungry. And then he found them as walkers like a few days after this. He says he found
one
them in
day.
Yeah.
Which is insulting, really.
Yeah.
Just like they're gone for one day, and well, that didn't work out.
Yeah, immediately they lost.
Yeah.
So
he lost his whole family.
Yeah, and so he's losing it. And so he has this radio, and I guess he just stumbles upon Clementine's frequency and starts talking to her through that, and he hears about the shit going on with you guys. I guess it's just a coincidence that it happened to be, like, he just happened to find them on the walkie-talkie, or the radio, I mean, and they just happened to be the people who stole from their van. That seems to line up, like, maybe a little too perfectly.
So
but,
there was a scene at the beginning of this episode for me. I don't know if your version of the game has this the same sort of feature, but there was a last time on The Walking Dead.
Mine does not. It doesn't have last time or next time, and I don't like that.
So mine does, and on the last time on The Walking Dead, they showed me a scene that I could swear did not exist in the episode they said it came from.
Oh, really?
It was the scene in the station wagon where Carly gives Clementine batteries for the radio. She finds batteries, and she remembers, radios eat batteries from that first episode. Then Lee had to tell Carly how to use a radio battery.
That does sound right. I think that did happen because that sounds familiar, and I didn't get that. I don't get last time on Walking Dead, and that still sounds. So, yeah, I think it must have been brought up in that episode.
So they make a point of showing Carly give the batteries to Clementine either in both episodes or and I'm crazy, or just the last time, or whatever. But either way, they're priming the player like, hey, this car had batteries, maybe like the exact kind for this. I wasn't really thinking about it in that term, in those terms, because I was thinking like, well, just everything uses batteries. Probably AA's like everything else. My Xbox 360 controller and my flashlight both use AA batteries. It's not a big deal. But maybe it's a special radio battery that they find, indicating this guy had the same sort of radio thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I guess, he just happens to connect to Clementine. It's implied that she's been telling him about all the stuff that's been going on
Uh-huh.
at least a little while. So she probably told him exactly, like, oh yeah, our group, we found this
Yeah.
station wagon, we stole out of it, no big deal.
Well,
And then
she
he
would
was
say
like,
that you didn't.
yeah,
For
well,
us,
she might
two.
say that everyone else did, because
Mm-hmm.
that's Lee even tells him, like, I didn't steal from you, and he says your people did.
Yeah. So the more he's talking to you, the more you realize what this character actually represents,
Mm-hmm.
because everything that you've done from that moment on has been remembered by Clementine. It says that in the upper left-hand corner of the game. Anytime you do anything, Clementine will remember this. And what does that mean? You kind of interpret it as like, well, she's developing a personality as she grows up. It might matter in the long run.
Mm-hmm.
Clementine remembers this means she's going to tell this guy.
Yeah.
And it really just manifests the urgency of exploring the consequences of your own choices in a very tangible way. There's this guy right in front of you, and he says to me, when I found out that your group stole from me, but you and Clementine specifically didn't, I initially wasn't going to do anything to you or Clementine. I was going to try to get to them for my revenge. He even says for my revenge, which I think is a little arc. That's a
Yeah.
little too arc for him. But
it's funny because earlier in the episode,
deeds.
It's funny because earlier in the episode, you have the choice for Lee to be like, we find Clementine and that's it. We can't make this about revenge.
Yeah, but he's all about revenge.
Yeah, this guy
he made that choice earlier.
Yes, please, revenge.
I'm deeply in favor of revenge. And he's saying he wasn't going to target Lee, but after he heard everything that Lee did, which for me was, he killed a guy in the dairy right in front of Clementine. He left Lily on the side of the road to die. He chose to drop Ben from the bell tower. And one other thing that I forgot to write down. Like, all of the most morally ambiguous things, he tells Lee, like, hey, you did this while you were supposed to be taking care of a little girl, and everything he says that you did, you have the option to, like, you're given 3 options. You're saying no, or well, it's more complex than that.
It's a little complicated.
Well, I wouldn't have done that now.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of those 3, or you can just sort of be like, man, shut up. And I think those 3 options, like, he's telling you everything that you did that you probably aren't sitting right with right now. So, like, the first thing he says, you killed a guy at the dairy right in front of Clementine, and you didn't have to do it. And I'm thinking, like, oh, dude, you weren't there. You don't know what was going on. This guy, it was a danger. It had to be done. So I said that, like, it's more complex than that. You don't know what this guy was all about. And then he says, you left Lily on the side of the road. And I'm like, that's true.
I did do that. You got me.
I did do that one. It's impactful. It works. It really matters. It feels bad. I was forced to pick the weakest of the 3 options from, like, my argument's perspective, which is, well, I wouldn't have done that now.
Well, now that I'm sitting here in front of you, I think I would have done it a little differently.
Yeah, and it's true though. Like, I've been through a journey with this in this world, and I am in a different place. Like, I don't think I would have done that now. I think the Ben situation showed me I should have given Lily another chance, even though on a meta level I know what happens with Lily if I let her stay, and she just steals the RV. But I'm pretending I don't, right? Yeah, like, he's got me dead to rights on that one. Like, I fucked up bad. I just got angry at someone. I left them to die. Oh, by the way, another guess I had for this radio guy was somehow Lily had found a guy, and, like, she's trying to get back at Lee for that. I wanted that one the least. I really wanted the leaving Lily to matter, because it was impactful at the time.
Yeah, that would have sucked, but at the same time, I think it's very funny thinking that Lily is so pissed off at your whole group that she concocts this whole plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And you first hear the guy on the radio at the end of that episode, so she would have had to act like within like a few hours. Like less than 24 hours to get this plan off the ground.
Yeah, but like the idea of, oh, she's just so pissed off at this group that she does this whole plan. That's what he did. That's what Station Wagon guy did.
That's true.
So yeah, I could see it happening.
It's funny. He said totally different things to me when he brought up the shit I did.
Well, we did different shit. So what did you write it down?
Oh, I wish I did. I remember 2 of them, but I don't remember my one he brought up for episode 3. It might have been the same one with Lily.
I'm sure it was, because that's... Yeah. I remember we did the same thing with that.
Yeah, and I don't remember anything else that happened in the episode that he would have brought up. But for the dairy, since I didn't kill them, he just says, you brought her to this place of sickos who eat humans. And I feel like that's kind of a weak argument. Like, obviously, we didn't know that.
Yeah, did you have the option to say, I didn't know?
Yeah, I think I did. I think that's what I picked, and I think he just moves on to the next one, which must have been Lily.
Okay, so I was saying that he said the thing about dropping Ben to me. I don't think he actually did, and I can't remember what it was. But I do remember that one of the things I picked was like, well, I couldn't have known about that. And I don't remember...
Was it Crawford? Because for me, he brings up, you brought her to this dangerous Crawford place.
Well, I don't think I would have said I don't know about that, though, because I think we knew about that.
Yeah, like, you didn't know that everyone there was dead, but you were warned multiple times that this place is dangerous and doesn't allow kids.
Yeah, it might have been, like, the harbor. It might have been he said, you brought her to this... No, that doesn't make sense either. I don't know what it was. I'll need to somehow...
I'll need to look up, like, all of the... I'm sure someone's cataloged it by now,
yeah.
like, all of the different things he can say.
I'm sure someone has. But they're impactful. This man is a manifestation of consequence of choice. This is what you've been doing the whole game, because when you kill that guy in the dairy, I thought the consequence of it was immediate. I thought it was. Like, Clementine, you saw Clementine react to it, and you're like, oh, that hurt.
Lame.
But I think this man exists in this game just to show you, like, even though you've been doing a pretty good job of keeping a low profile, you are mostly still negatively impacting a lot of people around you.
Mm-hmm.
Because you feel that you have to, and you've justified it to yourself in that way. It is interesting, though, like, sometimes you just make enough nice choices throughout these episodes that, like, for you, the thing that he was able to say was you brought her to the dairy. Like, well, he should know that none of you thought that was happening.
Well, like, maybe Clementine left that part out. Maybe she just told him the part where, yeah, we went to a dairy and they all ate people. Oh, it sucked. Like, maybe he doesn't know that you didn't know. Maybe he just thinks, you took her to this dangerous place with fucking cannibals, you asshole?
Yeah.
So I can kind of see his logic, even though you know that there was no way for you to know that that's how it happened.
It does. I think that the ones I got, especially the one leaving Lily on the side of the road, that worked for me. But I can totally imagine going through this game and doing mostly the morally, like, in Clementine's eyes, good thing. Mm-hmm. And he just, like, lists a bunch of things that you, like, don't even feel a little bit bad about.
And you're like, try again.
Yeah, dude, I don't care. We didn't know.
You don't got a leg to stand on.
You're not going to make me feel bad about that. Like, if you don't leave Lily on the side of the road, what does he say? That you had a really good time on a train? Like,
you brought Clementine on a train. Don't you feel awful?
You put, maybe he turns it around, like, you put someone you just saw murder one of your friends right next to her in a car. And, like, I could see that being bad.
Mm-hmm.
Just either way, he hates you for it.
You just can't, there's no winning with this guy.
I guess that's the point. Like, he has to be the ramifications of your choices.
Yeah.
In a game about choices, the immediate impact is always there, and sometimes you get like a 1 or 2 episode delayed reaction to a choice, and that's always cool. Like we saw with Ben, how he dies in dumb ways in different episodes potentially. But with this guy at the end of episode 5, the end of the season, he's just there to be like, hey, you did not do nearly as good of a job as you thought you did.
Yeah.
And that matters because you're about to take Clementine back, which works, by the way. Spoilers, like, this guy's more of a roadblock than anything significant, but he's just a reminder, like, hey, everything you've done is causing me to hate you right now.
Yeah.
You have to answer for your choices. And
yeah, like this guy
you
isn't
kind of do.
this guy isn't like the St. John's in the second episode, or he's not like Walker's. He's just some guy, but because of what's going on with him, it feels more impactful than all of those.
Yeah, I gotta say, like, I don't really buy him as a justifiable villain. He doesn't cross the line to me of like, oh wow, I can get this guy's perspective. Like, no, this guy's still pretty like mwahaha. He's definitely crazed.
Yeah.
His perspective is not healthy.
Yeah, but you can also kind of see what could have driven him to this. Like, what he's doing is not justified. He's not good for doing this. But it does suck that he was made to do something like this.
Yeah, as a character, I don't know if I think much of him, but as the effect to Lee's cause, he's a lot. He sort of makes the whole game make sense. He ties up every loose end somehow, as just like, hey, look, it's mattered. Everything you've done, it's mattered just because, even though I'm not doing anything differently from gameplay to gameplay to gameplay, if I make different choices, even though I'm still here at the end, no matter what, the fact that you've even gone through it means I'm right here. Means I hate you for it. Which simultaneously makes you reconsider all those choices and makes you feel worse about some of them. And sort of locks you into them more, saying like, well, you know what? If I did the other one, I bet you'd be here too. I bet you'd be right here. Because a lot of this seems like justification for wanting to be obsessed with me because you lost your family and you just went crazy.
Yeah.
More than actually caring about my choices.
Exactly.
But you've been able to make the argument for yourself. You're at least sane enough to do that. But it's self-justification more than anything. And I think for that reason, I don't really feel bad about him dying at this point. But that was actually also a choice. So for me, I guess I spoiled that. He did die.
Yeah. I mean, he died for me too, but how did he die for you?
Okay. Yeah, no, actually, you're right. He died no matter what. But the choice is different. I'm looking at my phone screen at the picture I took. Okay, so the stranger, there is an option of killed Clementine's captor, and you either did kill the stranger or you didn't.
What was yours?
I didn't.
Good. I feel like it's more impactful if you don't.
So if you do it, then you do it. If you don't, Clementine shoots him from the other side of the room.
I think that's just so much more impactful. When I was watching, was it? I forget if it was Andrew or Adam that did it, but one of them killed him, and it just didn't have nearly the same impact because you just choke him out. You just like choke him out and then leave him. I think it's so much more satisfying seeing Clementine able to pull the trigger to kill this. This isn't even a walker. This is an alive person. And Clementine is able to pull the trigger and kill this guy who's trying to kill you.
So this isn't in their choice system that a lot of the major choices are. This is more in an action response sort of way. So they have a quick time event where you're supposed to mash a button. And I was mashing the X button. I was doing it. And then I realized like, oh, they're really prolonging the shot. They're making me think about it. And this is sort of a version of the thing I was not liking earlier. Almost the same approach, where it's just like, the only thing I have to do is mash. But I think it works this time because I kind of caught up with it, and I was like, I'm going to stop mashing. I'm just going to stop pressing the button. I don't think I should do this.
Mm-hmm.
And then he turns around and starts choking me, and I was like, I should have killed you. I was wrong. And then,
I was wrong. I was so wrong.
And then Clementine shoots him in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's the gun that you pick up later, by the way.
Yeah.
That I alluded to earlier, like 5 hours ago.
I'm so glad you set that up.
Yeah. So there you go. That's I think the meat of the episode. There's only one sort of, fairly important section yet left, but that's basically the season arc right there. Everything you've done has mattered, and it's collected itself into one very angry guy who tried to, in his mind, liberate Clementine from Lee because he hates Lee. Mm-hmm. But really, he's just... I think he let slip at one point, Clementine... Or Lee says, what are you going to do with her? And he's basically like, I might shoot her. Just trying to get her out of the situation. And it's like, okay, well, dude, hear yourself before you talk.
Yeah,
think it
maybe
through.
Save that.
Yeah, diction is so important.
He also has that. He has his wife's head in the bag.
Right. That's such a big point. He's got this bag that the whole time you're sort of arguing with him about everything, you can't see it. He's just got this bag. Mm-hmm. And my first instinct was, he's got a head in the bag. Mm-hmm. And then my second instinct was, okay, I've been watching too many dumb movies. There's no way he has a head in the bag. It's got to be something else. And then they do show you what's in the bag later. He's got a head in the bag.
It's a head. That's right. And it's not just any head. I shouldn't have psyched myself
out about it.
It's his wife's head. He was talking to it. That's crazy. This crazy man.
He was talking to Tess, his Walker head wife. By the way, they've cut Walker's heads off before. Mm-hmm. And it kills them. But in this situation, the head is still like... Rah, 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 rah.
I have to imagine that separating the head from the body kills the body, but not the head, because you just needed to kill the brain.
Well, right. It definitely kills the body, but
Yeah.
I get what you're saying, but the brain without any kind of connection to the body will die on its own. There's nothing that can be done to supply blood to the brain, right? In order for it to work. Mm-hmm. So I don't know. That was it's worth it. It's worth the. This is a niggling nerd thing that I think I can look past, as opposed to the door rope, which I'm mad about. Yeah.
Yeah, walkers also don't really exist, so maybe they work on different rules.
Yeah, maybe it's magic. I bet I've said this before, I'm pretty sure it's a wizard's fault.
That's true. Maybe in season 4 you meet the wizard responsible for all this.
Yeah.
The Zoltar, the wizard.
Yeah, Zoltar or Zomtar, and that's why they call it zombies. They're named after him.
He specializes in necromancy, yeah.
Yeah. And you and all your new friends confront Zomtar, and he's like, "Oh, did you see my army of flicky flackers?" And then he's like, "Oh, we've been calling them walkers." And he's like, "That's dumb. You should just call them flicky flackers.
Everything walks."
And then you're like, "Everything flicks, Zomtar.
I guess you've got me."
And flax. We've all been doing it.
It cuts to them flick-flacking.
That's a Family Guy joke, probably. So you're about to leave the room because you don't want to be here with this weird dead guy and his wife's head in a bag.
This weird dead guy. That's a good description. Go on. It just made me laugh.
And there's a walker right outside the door. Damn it, I said walker. You got me 5 episodes, Telltale. You got me 5 episodes and I didn't call a zombie a walker until right now.
You fell for it. Hey, what better time to do it?
I mean, I guess I have 4 seasons left of this game, so it's not like I actually made it to the end or anything. But it felt like an accomplishment.
Yeah,
You tricked me right at the end.
you had a good streak going.
I'm nothing if not easily tricked. So there's a guy right there, and like he's face to face with Lee, and you get the feeling like, oh, Lee's dead. But then he sort of like walks past Lee and tries to go for Clementine instead.
He's like, "Excuse me."
And then Lee just takes out a gun and kills him, and he realizes that Walker was not interested in Lee because Lee's got tons of like Walker guts and everything from when he was Ramboing through that crowd of walkers outside of the hotel. Now I'm just calling them walkers every time. Because he's got all the guts on him, he smells like one of them.
Mm-hmm.
So he realizes like, oh, that's good, but it does mean I need to do that to Clementine. And he very slowly and painstakingly rubs some intestine on Clementine. And she hates it, and I hate it. We all hate it. It's the worst. You're rescuing her. It should be like, this is obviously a very dour story in general. You're never going to have a valiant Luke Skywalker finds Leia and swings across a rope to save her moment in this sort of story. But you'd expect like, oh, thank God, we can relax for a second. And then you don't have that moment. There's no like cheer up at all. Clementine's clearly a little happier to have Lee than not to, but you just have to smear her with guts.
And she looks so sad when you're done. Once this image sticks with me so, like, ever since my first playthrough, just that image of once you're done, she's just looking up at you with the saddest face covered in Walker guts, and I'm just like, this sucks.
Yeah, and you can tell, like, she's not going to complain about it. At this point, she complained a little bit about cutting her hair, and that was a bummer. But the arguments that Chuck laid out, like, hey man, you can't have such grabbable hair. It's just a real, actual hazard. Like, okay, that makes sense. That I see why we have to cut your hair. With this, it still makes sense. It's a good plan. But you see her and she's like complaining less than the haircutting things. Like, oh,
she gets it.
You're such a trooper, and I hate that you have to be that.
Exactly.
I'm remembering to our conversation about episode 1 of this game, and I was saying like, I don't really care about Clementine yet. Yeah, I'm there. I care about Clementine.
Clementine's great. Me.
Yeah. Clementine is the core of why this game is good. It wasn't at first. It wasn't even for the first maybe 3 episodes until I got there. Until that haircutting scene on the train, and then like, okay, this is the midpoint of the game, and it worked. It happened. I'm now very much feeling for Clementine.
You're on Team Clementine.
Yeah, I wanted to say like, oh, it's so personal to me. It's like, well, no, it's not. I'm not a dad. I don't. It's just good writing. It does a good job of getting people who would not relate to this at all in there, and it feels effective. It feels like you're feeling something real. And it's not just torture porn either, because it could just be sad. Like, you can make something really, really sad, and you can walk away like, well, it did it. I'm clearly very sad. But in order to do something like this, you need to measure it with like, I'm sad because there's something that I'm feeling very positively about being wrecked here.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that's harder to do, and it's definitely an aspect of why this game has touched so many people that I was sort of blind to. I didn't know like why exactly this game is loved so much. I get it. I'm there. I'm on board.
Yeah. And not just Clementine, but I think various characters throughout this series you really get you start to like. You know, a lot of them are assholes, but like I hated when Carly got shot in her dumb face.
Yeah.
I was like, shit, that's not cool. I liked Carly.
Yeah.
Even Kenny, even when you lose Kenny, I'm like, Kenny and I didn't always see eye to eye, but he's been kind of my bro for a good part of this. And, you know, obviously there's some characters that you don't really care about dying. Doug, Mark, the list goes on and on. but I feel like there's enough there where I'm like, I don't really want any of these characters to die at all.
Yeah, there's something additionally with this station wagon guy and Kenny that I think is interesting, because in a lot of ways, I mean, the main function of station wagon guy is that he's your choices. He is your choices, but also I think he's a foil to Kenny in a lot of ways. They both lose their family in very like snap decision trivial things that shouldn't have happened, that in some way can be traced back to Lee's group. And what Kenny goes through is a form of self-actualization fueled by, I think, his own optimism. And he learns to forgive. He like the more he finds out about Lee's actions that are bad, he's like, well, I'm starting to really genuinely forgive you, Lee, and you're becoming one of my best friends. And the station wagon guy is like the opposite. It's the mirror of that. All the things Lee does shouldn't impact station wagon guy at all. It's especially from our perspective, where Lee does not assist in raiding the station wagon.
Yeah.
Like, hey, my decisions are not your problem, but he gets so fixated on them that his mind warps around it, also caused by the death of his family. Like, they're two men. One man is good, and one man is at his heart not good, and he's evil and vindictive. And the same trigger triggers vastly different changes of character for these two people in weird ways. I think that's very clever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree. It never once occurred to me to think that he could be foiled to Kenny, but yeah, I totally agree 100%. It's great.
I think he's maybe that comparison really only strikes me because of a particular thing.
No, I mean, I get
that
it.
we've done in our playthroughs.
I totally get it.
Compare like other people's playthroughs. I don't know. Maybe they're different. Maybe like if you keep getting angrier and angrier at Kenny every chance you get, and maybe he doesn't feel like he's doing something cool at the end. He feels like, well, I guess it's my turn to fix this too. And yeah, it would look different. But in the way the game was presented to me this playthrough, I think there's something very interesting going on in the contrast between Station Wagon Guy and Kenny.
Yeah.
Station Wagon Guy is defined by driving a car. Kenny has driven a lot of different things, but doesn't have any of them anymore.
Yeah. I mean, that's what it all comes down to at the end of the day.
Yeah.
They're similar in their differences.
Yeah. Kenny doesn't keep his wife's head in a bag. Station Wagon Guy is the exact opposite.
He does exactly the opposite of that.
Yeah.
Oh, man. That's the genius of good writing, I guess.
Yeah. So, yeah, let's finish it off.
Yeah.
So, Lee and Clementine, they both get all stunk up with their goops. And they walk through the crowd of walkers. And it's working pretty well. You get like some head turns, but they're kind of confused. You don't get the sense that you're actually going to be caught by any of these. They're just too
the walkers
dumb.
The walkers are like, check out the new guy.
There's also something that happens to Walker's eyes, and happens quite a bit. Like visually, you can see it happen to Lee later on. Mm-hmm. Their eyes are like, it looks like they're full, like they're completely white. Mm-hmm. A lot of the time, like they have the iris and the pupil, but like they're bleached out.
Yeah.
I bet their sight is really bad. That said,
totally.
They always retain hearing. They can hear everything, and that's why it's a problem to make noise. And they can smell. Yeah.
That's why it's bad to smell.
So if you're just like walking at the normal speed, smelling like shit, you really are probably fine. They can't visually see that you look different.
Yeah.
But for that same reason, you'd think, like, do you think walkers ever go for each other? Ever? Like, even just because they're confused? They don't seem to do it.
I'm going to say no, and the reason why is I think the smell of what's inside. So, because when the walker doesn't attack Lee inside, I don't think it's because he's covered in walker guts. I think it's because he's already been bit, and that's already inside him.
Oh. No,
So,
I think it's the walker guts, though, actually. Because they comment on that, and he says right after, it's because I have walker guts on me, and it works for Clementine.
Yeah. That is true.
That would have been cool, though. I'm not trying to poop on it, Dustin. I'm sorry.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, that could be the reason, but then, it just also happens to work out that way. But that's dumb. It makes more sense for him to realize that's why, and that's why he covers Clem in the guts and goop.
So you're walking
never
through
mind,
the crowd,
forget it.
though.
Yeah.
And then Clementine, something that Lee says Clementine should not do is look around.
Yeah.
So,
but guess what she does?
Yeah, guess what she fucking does, idiot.
Remember when I said she wasn't listening in the last episode? Yeah.
Yeah.
Guess she regrets that now.
She looks to her right and she sees her parents. She finally finds them. They're exactly where she thought they were going to be at the Marsh Hotel, but they are walkers. They're fully transformed, and she can't get over it. She's like frozen with analysis, seeing her parents. And Lee's about to butt in and says like, "Hey, don't look. That's bad to look." But whatever dialogue option you choose, he just faints.
Yeah, he passes out in the middle of the road.
Yeah, and then I thought for sure like, oh, that he's done. Because not only is he, on his way to becoming a walker, he is in the middle of a bunch of zombies, and he just fainted and like made a big thud. I bet.
Yeah.
Well, I bet walkers are doing that all the time, actually. So maybe that blended in.
Yeah, they're always falling over.
Yeah, they're like not even using all of their leg to stand up. I could see it.
That's what separates us from them.
So Clementine apparently drags Lee to it looks like a police station or something. I can't tell what this is.
I think so.
Maybe an art gallery? I know those two ideas are very different, and it's weird that I can't decide which of those two they are.
It's the art gallery from CSI.
Oh, I bet it is. I bet it definitely is.
No, it 100% is not. But
yeah. Okay, you're right.
But
I shouldn't just say
right
bullshit because this is an audio-only medium, and they might not have listened. Listeners might not have.
I know you're joking. But,
yeah.
But yeah, I guess it is because there's like the statue on the pedestal, and there's like cases throughout.
So Clementine wakes you up, and Lee just looks so shitty.
Yeah, he's like, I don't even want to be around anymore.
His eyes are like jaundiced.
Yellow.
Yeah. His skin is. It went from being like sort of a deep brown to way more gray. Like he looks like a walker already. He's there.
Yeah, they do a really good job of selling it. I was thinking about it this time. I was like, he looks awful. They're really selling that he is a near-death man.
Yeah, he doesn't have any like loss of skin or anything yet, but he's clearly doing terribly.
Yeah.
And you get the idea that he would never have even woken up again if not for Clementine sort of shaking him into really trying for another couple minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But he has to come clean, and he has to tell Clementine like, "Hey, I was bitten. That's why I don't have my arm anymore."
Oops.
Yeah, and there's this scene where there's a security guard stuck to his chair in the office, and you can see into it. And Clementine's like, "I can't do this alone." And Lee's like, "Yeah, you can. I have to just sit here. What you need to do is you need to get a baseball bat and break into the office." And then you're sort of directing her like a point-and-click adventure, sort of more like Sam and Max, actually, where you're sort of just you're not playing as Sam. you're playing as the player telling Sam what to do.
Mm-hmm.
And you're seeing Clementine from the eye line perspective of Lee sitting on the ground. You're just sort of weakly saying, "Go over there, get the bat, and then you can break into the door.
Get the thing and do the thing."
And it's really sad to watch her like realize in real time. You're 9 years old. They made a point of reaffirming that earlier in the episode. She's 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
She had a birthday 6 days ago, and no one even knew.
No one had any idea.
And,
I don't like to make a big deal of it.
I don't know. I got a haircut. I thought that was fine.
Good birthday gift.
When was 6 days ago? Was 6 days ago like between episodes 2 and 3?
I want to say yeah, because it sounds like this has only been within the last couple days that these last few episodes happened.
Okay. So as early as Duck doing the Batman and Robin thing, trying to solve the crime, we had already passed Clementine's birthday.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's a bummer. So you're leading Clementine through doing all these things, and like in this moment, you're making sure that she can like. You're getting the sense that all these little things are massive lessons to her, and they're going to stick with her forever.
Mm-hmm.
Like always go for the gun first, so then you're protected when something goes wrong. Look around your surroundings for tools. Be resourceful. Try to get in through places that aren't necessarily the front door. All these little things. And then you have Clementine cuff you to a radiator.
Is that what you did?
What did you do?
I had her cuff the walker.
Walker's already trapped.
Yeah.
Well, yeah,
I mean,
so he does get out later, but he seemed like he was already trapped to me. So the first thing that you can go for the keys or the gun or the cuffs on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, first things first, cuff me to this thing because I'm going to be gross pretty soon.
Ew.
Because I don't know if they're saving the turn for the end or whatever. I feel like I should be cuffed right now, like right away. I'm positive that I'm through. I don't have I don't have a chance anymore.
It's so interesting to think about because I remember from my very first playthrough, I was like, yeah, I'm going to cuff the walker so he can't grab at me while I'm getting his gun. But this time, I don't know if it does it in the other versions, but I never noticed it until now. They specifically have the camera point to your arm in the radiator.
After you pick up the cuffs?
Yeah, after you pick up the cuffs to let you know you can do this. But not once do I ever think I should do that. I just think cuff the walker to the chair, because if I don't, I can't get his keys and guns because he'll grab at me.
So for me, the walker got out of the chair and there was like a struggle on the ground where Clementine was trying to kick him away. And all you can do as Lee is like sort of nudge the baseball bat closer to Clementine, but she gets it and she beats the hell out of this guy. She bats his head in like 5 times. Yeah. Definitely doing the job. And I think selling to the player is like, everything's sad right now, but she's actually more capable than she's been letting on. She can do things like this, so she can do a lot.
Yeah, it's great. And this is what happens to me too. If you cuff the walker to the chair, his hand just breaks off. It's like his hand rips off his arm, and he's like, "Ah, now I'm free."
So at the very end, Clementine has a gun. And you have a choice of telling Clementine what she should do. She'll do anything you want her to do. She loves you. But you make the choice of, do you tell Clementine to shoot you in the head, therefore making sure you don't ever become a walker, or just leave him here? Either way, it's goodbye. But
which one did you pick?
So it is an impactful choice. But I also think it's kind of one of those choices where, like, of course you pick Clementine has to shoot Lee.
Yeah, here's the thing, Mitch. I agree with you. I'm here on this.
Who doesn't?
Adam.
How did Adam feel about it?
he stood by it. And here's the thing. I don't want to ever say, like, oh, you made the wrong choice. You played the game wrong.
No, I don't. Yeah,
but
I don't think.
But here I'm like, I think you played this part wrong. I was like, I can't believe you did not shoot Lee.
And I'm looking at the player percentages for this choice, and there's two choices here that have massive majorities in one direction.
Yeah.
So the first one was the one we just talked about, killing the station wagon guy. Turns out most people killed him. 90% of people killed him, according to my numbers.
Oh, what's mine? Hold
and
on,
I'm in the 10% that didn't.
Mitch, this is crazy.
Uh-huh.
For my version of the game, it says you and 65% of players did not kill the stranger.
Okay, look, Telltale, they're so different. I understand different versions of the game, like, having different-ish numbers, like, where the exactness isn't there. You gotta unify these numbers, man. They're crazy different.
The only one on mine that was, like, had a huge majority was, it says you and 19% of players surrendered your weapons.
You and 30% of players surrendered your weapons.
Okay, so those are at least both the minorities.
Yeah, we're both in the minority there. I think, you know what, Dustin, what I've learned about us two people throughout the doing of this show, we're both such goody two-shoes.
I know, right?
Yeah, we're going to surrender our weapons because he told us to, and we're like, yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, you make it sound so lame. It's like, yeah, sure. I just
he kidnaps Clementine, and then he's like, hey, you want to do a dance for me? And I'm like, yeah, sure.
Whatever you want.
No skin off my back.
You want coffee or anything?
Yeah, we're such pathetic losers. We're just rolling over.
Well, I didn't want to make things worse. I was like, all right, fine. I'll play your little game.
Okay. So Adam,
but it works out.
Felt good about it?
I guess I don't know, like, 100% exactly how he felt, because I did not hesitate to tell him, I can't believe you did that. So I wonder if me being more antagonistic towards him made him be like, what? I just did it. And I'm going to be honest, Mitch, I think the ending is worse if you don't shoot him as well.
Well, I mean, you kind of get that idea of, like...
Well...
You can stop yourself from living, but... Or like, you can't stop yourself from dying. Mm-hmm. But it's the one thing you have agency over. If anything, this game has been about, it's like, Lee can make a choice for himself where other people can't. That's the mechanic of the game. That's the story of the game. So I want to make him make this choice for himself one last time. And he made the choice of telling Clementine, oh, you should kill me. Because I'll be back if you don't. And I don't want to do that.
Yeah, well, not just that. I totally agree with that. But also, if you don't shoot him, that ending where she's, like, leaving him and saying goodbye, it drags on way longer.
Oh, really?
And yeah, like, she just doesn't want to leave, so she's just, like, slowly leaving, and it keeps cutting back and forth between her and Lee. And I'm just like, leave. This was done in half this time if you shoot him.
Does Lee turn into a zombie?
No, you leave before it happens.
Oh, that's the reason to stay. That's the reason you do it.
You want to see it happen. If you make that choice, that's what you want to see. But no, you don't even get that. You just get a prolonged goodbye. And, like, I already don't agree with that choice to make, but on top of that, it's just not done as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, this is by far the most extreme player percentage I've ever seen in this game. You and 95% of players made sure Lee didn't turn.
Yeah, that's crazy. Mine isn't even that crazy. Like, it's still the majority, but mine is you and 60% of players made sure Lee didn't turn.
Oh, that's a weak majority. Yeah, 95.
Right? Like, 95 seems more believable to me, because it just seems like the right thing to do in this case.
So that was really impactful. But I assume Clementine's gonna go meet up with Omid and Krista. I don't know that because I'm now dead. I hope Omito and Krista are fine. I saw Kenny die, saw Ben die, saw Lily be left for dead, I saw Carly die, I saw Larry die, I saw Mark die, I saw Doug die. I saw the St. John brothers die, I saw the St. John mother die.
Did you say Duck?
Nope. Duck and Katya both died.
Yeah.
I saw Chuck dead.
You didn't see him die, but you did see him dead.
Yeah, and we saw that girl that we already made fun of this episode, whose name I can't even remember right now.
Bree?
Bree died. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's been a lot of death and a lot of dark times on the road here, but we're here. That's credits when credit for us who chose to have Clementine kill Lee. That moment, right as she pulls the trigger, is credits on The Walking Dead Season 1.
Well,
there is a post-credits, but that is the credits for me.
So you had credits.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't have credits? Oh, it just pooped you out in 400 days? Are you kidding?
So, Mitch, this is the big problem I have with this episode. Remember how I was alluding to there's something in this version of the game that almost ruins the ending for
you. Got to get over to my version of the game, Justin. Yours sounds trash.
Well, hold on there, Buckaroo.
Okay.
I don't necessarily think your version is the cream of the crop here either.
Fine. Okay.
So you did get credits for this.
Yeah.
Did it play a song, or was it just the generic credits music?
Played a song. I played a new song.
Was it Take Us Back?
Yeah.
You got Take Us Back in your version?
Yeah.
My version sucks ass. Fuck
yeah,
this.
Okay, so mine is the cream of the crop. Take it back.
I take it back, Mitch.
Why did you think I didn't have that?
Because mine didn't, and I read that one didn't have it either. I guess it was wrong.
Nah, I'm good. I got it.
That's awesome. Mitch, that single-handedly made me say, I'm gonna get that version now.
Yeah, you can turn off graphic black, you can turn it back on again if you want and see how it's different. It's a good version. Even
besides that, I thought, well, I already have this version. I don't need to buy it again. Because I also read up that it did not have Take Us Back in the credits. My version does not have it, and I think it almost ruined the ending for me.
Also, I'm pretty sure my version is the only collected version that has actually every episode, including Season 4.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Mitch,
that's pretty good.
I can't tell you how relieved I am that you got Take Us Back. Because in my version of the game, after she pulls the trigger, it just goes straight to that post-credits scene.
Okay. Yeah, I mean...
It doesn't ruin it. You still get, the scenes that happen. But as someone who played through this game multiple times with that version, I could not believe that Adam and Andrew got the version without it. I was like, I feel so... obviously it didn't bother them. They didn't even know it was supposed to have this song. But the whole time I was there, I was like... Devastated is too strong a word, but I was also like, I can't believe you did this.
Yeah, so when I bought it, I caught it not on a sale. It's very often on sale on Steam and Xbox and whatever, wherever it's on. I'm pretty sure it's on everything. It's not on Switch.
Yeah. I don't know what the fuck they did to this version, because mine doesn't have previously or next time on Walking Dead segments.
Yeah, yours is trash.
Yeah, it goes right into the next episode, and I don't even get Take Us Back. Season 2 has some songs, too, not to get into that, but they, apparently in my version, they just cut all of them. They just couldn't license any of those songs.
Yeah, my version might have worse load times, but it might also just be that I'm playing it on an Xbox One rather than
I would 100%
Series X.
I would guarantee that's it. Next time that game goes on sale, I'm getting that. Boy, I am so happy that you got this version. I'm making a bigger deal of it than it is, but as someone who, played through this game multiple times, with this credit song, Take Us Back, right after Clementine shoots Lee, and then it has a post-credit scene, that's the way it should be to me. It feels way less impactful to not have credits at all, have this song, then immediately go into this next scene like no time has passed.
So let's actually talk about that song if we're going to bring it up. It's a good song.
Okay. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah, it sort of vaguely talks about a father-daughter relationship in situations that are just impossible to bear. It's not easy to just explain the
Yeah.
theme of the song. It's a good song, though. You should look it up. It's called "Take Us Back." Do you know who it's by?
Alela Diane. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her first name. Alela.
Okay, I don't
That
know
sounds
that
right.
musician at all, but it's good. It's a good song.
Yeah.
Yeah. But by the way, the collection. So I got it for $50,
Mm-hmm.
which that's AAA video game money. That's not cheap at all.
And that's 4 seasons. That's pretty good for 4 seasons that cost like $20 individually.
Right. It's all 4 seasons
All the
plus 400
miniseries, the bonus.
days.
Yeah, 400 days, the
Plus the
Michonne.
Michonne thing.
Yeah,
It's
it's just
about
the entire
23 units.
Yeah. And like you paid $50 for it, but I've seen it on eBay, like new copies of it for like $25. So it's not a big commitment. If anyone listening wants to, if for some reason you listen to this without playing the game, first of all, shame on you. I'm sorry we spoiled the whole thing.
No, don't.
But
our listeners are fine. Do what you want to do.
yeah, but if you
Yeah,
want
but-
to get it, if you want to get it, it's not that expensive on eBay.
Yeah, I can't overstate how impressed I am with the team that we've seen make stuff like CSI and Jurassic Park turn this out.
Yeah.
It's just it really is a classic in video games that now that I've heard that forever. I've heard that The Walking Dead changed the way we think about narrative video games for like the last decade. But I just didn't give it a chance until now. And now I agree with it. Like now I totally see, I retroactively see all the other games it's impacted. This is a game that matters. It's a classic. It is really good. It's definitely taken the place of The Devil's Playhouse as my favorite Telltale game.
See, I don't know if I can say it's my favorite. I think it's the best. But
okay, that's fair, true too, because I think The Devil's Playhouse still does do some other stuff that I'm wishing this game pulled out. Like, hey man, just try a new art style all of a sudden and see how that affects things.
And I mean, this one technically does. No other Telltale game before this looks like this.
Well, I meant like from episode to episode. Because that's something
okay.
Devil's Playhouse tries all the time. Like just the medium in which you're looking through the screen goes from film grain to sepia to black and white to like you can see outlines. Like it changes all over the place. And in this one, it's the art style that the comic is, which makes sense. But you want some other stuff, and there's some other like character based stuff that I really liked in Devil's Playhouse that is not here in The Walking Dead. Like I don't think Sam and Max even come close to touching what they've done here with Lee and Clementine. But also, I think Sam and Max might have potentially been able to do more with Carly or something like that. So yeah, I mean,
she probably would have been funnier.
She probably would have been like a duck.
Yeah, that is doing something different with her.
Yeah, she's basically Quaxley in Sam and Max.
Wow, this alternate universe. Yeah, like I think at the end of the day, I do think this is Telltale's best. Season 1 of The Walking Dead, I would say, is Telltale's best game. But I think I would maybe only put it as like my third favorite because I do just prefer stories and worlds like Sam and Max and Monkey Island.
Yeah.
So even if those don't come close to what this game pull off, I just prefer those because it just falls more in line with my tastes. Although that being said, I originally wasn't even going to play this game. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, right?
Yeah, a long thought. That's pretty good.
I had a long thought, and then I wasn't going to say anything about it. But because you asked, I've had the thought for the longest time, like, why can't games that look and feel like Sam and Max ever do stories like this? And I don't mean like post-apocalyptic necessarily, because I would understand, like, if you want me to feel sad, give me a thing that's sad to look at. I get that. Yeah. But like even not in the direction of sadness, there are great stories out there that are written with very complex emotions and characters and ideas, and you never see like a Banjo Kazooie looking character or a Mario looking character or a Sam and Max looking character do this, and I just wonder why. Like, why can't you? Because I think that if someone nails it, if someone threads the needle, that might be my favorite game of all time. And I think it is actually part of why my actual favorite game of all time is Outer Wilds. Because it sort of is that a little bit.
Okay.
But like I don't. Do you know what I mean? Like why can't you have something that looks it like this mascot cartoony sort of way that people really do like the look of, and then do a story that's real? Instead of like, okay, well, the main character is a duck, so we have to have you rescue a princess from a castle, and that's just like the whole through line, and you don't need to think about it very hard. Like, why do you have to default to the bottom as soon as you have your characters looking a certain way?
I don't know. I don't necessarily think you 100% have to. I mean, I guess we talked about Sam and Max Season 3, The Devil's Playhouse, where it is still silly. It is still this world with these animal characters, but it does kind of feel like it's evolving into not exactly this, but it is hitting some, like you talked about Sam's whole thing with feeling like Max doesn't need him anymore. That's hitting some sort of like internal feelings that these wacky cartoon animals have.
Yeah, but I mean, you're right. Sam and Max the Devil's Playhouse is certainly doing more like narrative work than a Mario game or something. But it's still not here. Like the emotion of Sam feeling sad that Max doesn't need him anymore.
Do you think
it's kind of like a childish thing? That's like a child's show moral of the week.
Do you think it just is too hard to take seriously?
I think that's what people think.
If you do a scene like Lee and Clementine here, but it's with like Mario, I don't think I would have the same sort of. Maybe I would. I would have to see it, but it strikes me as something that would be extremely hard to pull off.
Well, yeah, and I think that the fact that Outer Wilds exists and sort of does that, I think is already impressive, and on top of everything else that game does. And also, like, I think you could rope in Hollow Knight and say that Hollow Knight does that pretty well. Even though Hollow Knight it's still sort of treading in the darkness of storytelling, and that's sort of why it gets away with it, even though the character designs are very cartoony.
What about Undertale?
Undertale feels different to me. Anytime you like go to pixel art, there's so much room for interpretation of what that pixel art is trying to represent that in your head it could either be the cartoony thing it's like technically trying to emulate, or you could just say, I'm just going to imagine the full character. Like I don't know.
These are real skeletons. They just look like this for the game.
Yeah,
I can see that.
Like when the characters are made of boxes, you have to extrapolate. Okay, what am I actually looking at? And either way you do that, you can make it sort of go whatever direction your brain's eye wants to go. And I don't even really know what I think of when I look at a lot of pixel art. I just know it's not exactly the thing I'm looking at.
Yeah.
But that's a good point. I don't think that's completely off the table. But then even like the narrative through line of Undertale is like, it's about love and how much we love each other, and not a complex, not that complex of a way. I don't want to shit on the story of Undertale. I think the story of Undertale is really, really good, but I also don't think that the motifs they're going for are something that you wouldn't find on Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
It does a way better job with them than something like Nickelodeon has ever done, ever, or Disney has ever done, ever. I think its story is amazing, but it is still using that subject matter that is very low hanging. Yeah.
Yeah, I really just think it's just a really difficult balancing act.
Mm-hmm.
And most of the time, I guess it's just not worth trying, because I feel like if you have this world of cartoony animals or just characters in general, and you go for a story like this that's more serious, there's just that tonal whiplash. It could be done well, but I think it's incredibly hard. And I think of things like this is a game series I've never played, but it's what comes to mind. The Legend of Spyro games are a series of, and obviously this is not like a good comparison, and I'm talking out of my ass because I never played them before. But
Okay.
but they're Spyro games that like attempted to be a more serious story, is what I've gathered from them. And
well, I mean, it's sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a more serious story in the way that, like, Zelda is more serious than Mario. But Zelda games are still not... They're still kid stories. They're still not, like, actual literature. Like, anytime I talk about video game stories with people who are, like, very, very into video game stories, I kind of have to do this judgment calculation that it feels like I'm judging them, and that it's not cool. I never like to feel like I'm judging someone. But I am internally asking myself, like, so have you read books? Like, do you know books? Books go crazy. Books go real hard compared to video games.
Books go nuts!
Yeah, I mean, I've dedicated my life to video games. That is my career. That's what I do for a job. I've spent more hours on them than anything else through at least the last 20 years, probably more than... Actually, definitely more than 20 years. And I'm still gonna say, like, generally, video game stories are not nearly where literature is, where books are. We haven't gotten there, and I don't know necessarily if we ever will, because part of it is just okay. It's fine, because the point of games as a medium is not necessarily just about story, where literature, it often is just about story.
Right.
So it's not like a slam against the art form to say that our stories aren't that good. Sometimes it's just not what we're focused on. Like, I don't think Breath of the Wild is lacking a story. It just really doesn't have that much of one on purpose, because it is diverting attention on purpose to other more important things for it. But then something like The Walking Dead comes along, and I think it really does do something that I find interesting on a story level. That I think the game story is much more successful than the show's story of The Walking Dead. I don't know the comic, I haven't read the comic, but what it's done here is just it's silly to call it delightful because it's so dour, but like it's delightful that this can exist. I'm really happy that The Walking Dead can do what it does. If only for this season. I've heard that the impactfulness of the narrative devices used goes down in the coming seasons, and I'm ready for that. I know that Vanneman and Rodkin leave to do their own thing, so like the creative forces driving this season aren't really there anymore. But still, solid effort. I'm excited to see where the rest of this goes.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into my feelings on the other seasons when we get to them, but yeah, I love this game. It's wonderful, and this really was my first time playing a game like this. You know, this normally isn't my cup of tea. I had to have a friend tell me, "No, this is really good. You should play it," and then I did, and I'm so glad I did. And I hate to say it, I can't do that anymore. I don't have the time or money to just buy every game people say I should play, but I'm very glad I did this one time.
Well, have you heard about Game Pass?
Once or twice. That takes care of the money, but it doesn't take care of the time.
Sure, that's true. And like, I guess if you don't pay for it, your time is less of a commitment, so maybe you might feel better jumping out early, but you still have to spend some time on it. It's interesting that you say a game like this. I don't know if there's that many of those at all. Like,
yeah, I guess just what I mean is a more look. I don't make it any secret that my bread and butter are like cartoony, fun, stupid games. Like games that compared to this are like, you like that baby diarrhea? You, and I'm like, yeah. I've never even touched what's it called, The Last of Us ever, because I just have no interest in it. But yeah, I'm really glad that I did give this one a chance, because now it's just one of my favorite games.
Yeah, it's really something. I think it's a special game. I'd recommend it to basically anyone.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
I think we could talk about this season in general a lot longer if
Okay.
we wanted to, but we have been going for 3 hours, Dustin.
Yeah,
So-
this is this is a very long episode, but I think if any episode was going to be very long, I'm very glad it's this one.
Yeah, I'm happy that we're able to spend some time on it because it deserves it.
And also, it's not a long episode. But it gives so much to talk about.
I wanted to bring up some. We had some listeners who I actually told explicitly we'd be talking about their feedback in this episode. We simply don't have the time. We'll bring it up in the 400 days episode, which is next episode.
Yeah, we're not gonna have this much to say about that.
If you say so, I have no idea. But in any case, let's get into our segments.
Okay, I love segments.
And let's try to wrap it up pretty fast. Golden moment.
I mean, it's got to be the ending. It's just so impactful. But if I'm going with a less obvious choice, I think my golden moment is Clementine shooting the stranger in the head. Just the fact that she was able to do it to protect you, I thought was also very strong. What about you, Mitch?
Mine, I was about to write the same thing. I had the end, and then I crossed it out. And I put my actual one, now that I thought about it a little bit longer, which is the conversation with Station Wagon Guy.
Nice. That's a good one too.
Just the confrontation about your entire existence up to this point.
I love that there's no music in that scene either. It's just these two people talking.
Yeah, and like he's got a gun to you, but you get the point. Like he's not gonna pull it. The gun's just so you keep talking, and he really just wants to have the conversation, and Lee just doesn't, and that produces a really interesting moment that challenges the player's choices. I think this could have gone bad because like what you were saying about like you brought Clementine to the dairy. If I got 3 of those in a row where it's like, you didn't nail me, man. I don't care about that. I don't think I feel bad about that at all. This could have been a real wet blanket.
But all 3 of your choices were ones that made you feel bad.
No.
Oh, right. You said, like, the last one, you said, like, it's a little more complicated.
Well, the only one that really made me feel bad was leaving Lily on the side of the road. The other 2, it's like, well, you don't actually... You're saying this is bad, and, like, it is in a vacuum, but there's reasons I had to kill the St. John guy in front of Clementine that I feel attached to. I don't feel like I've thought this through. It's serious, but I did think it was fine. Mm-hmm. In fact, important to do. So if I didn't get that one where, like, I really felt bad about it, or even... that St. John one like had some legitimacy to it, I still think that's fine, even though I agree with myself in my own actions and I disagree with it being bad. If I didn't get either of those 2, I don't know, it might not have worked. And I think that's it's bold that the game like allows the whole moment it's leading to just not work if it shouldn't work. It's trusting the player a lot.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. It's very good.
This
episode has a lot of great scenes.
Yeah, a lot of great scenes.
I gotta give it to Lee this episode. You know what? I'm gonna say Lee brings it.
I think Lee does really well, but I'm gonna give it to Clementine.
Nice.
Yeah. I think I gave it to Clementine once before, but...
No, you didn't, because you gave it to Lee in the first episode, because Oh, no, did you give it to Clementine in episode 2?
I think I gave it to her in episode 2,
yeah. She really made you with that last choice. Yeah. All right. Yeah, I also love Clementine in this episode. I just feel a little bad not giving it to Lee because this is the last time he can probably get it.
Fair. Choice cut.
So this was tough. You know what? I'm going to say choice cuts in general are hard for me because I played this so much that I'm just like locked into my choices.
Mm-hmm.
But what was yours for this?
So I'm having the hardest time I had so far with this as well, but I think just those little micro decisions. You see, this is the thing with choice cut. I think the game wants you to be like, these are the 5 things that we included that you think you're really going to think about, and not all the ways the case. For me, it's like those little reflections that you get to make on each of the points that Station Wagon Guy makes. He says like, you left this woman on the side of the road, and I had to say like, I wouldn't have done that now.
I remember what I got. I didn't get Lily. Wait, no. Did I? Maybe I got exactly that, but I thought he was talking about the woman at the beginning.
At the beginning?
When you leave her to die from the walkers?
Oh, of episode 4?
No, at the beginning of episode 3, when you're getting the medicine and this girl's bitten by walkers, and you can either take her out or
that's episode
leave
4.
her to die.
No, that is episode... Wait, what?
It's at the beginning of episode 3 when you're getting the medicine at the pharmacy.
Okay, yeah, that's... No, I didn't think it was that one.
Okay, I'd need to look back at exactly what he says, because maybe...
You left a defenseless woman on the side of the road to fend for herself.
Yeah, I did get that.
I think it's got to be Lily.
That is Lily, but for some reason my brain read defenseless young woman, and I thought, oh, obviously the one at the beginning. I didn't even think about Lily. Oh, okay, that makes more sense.
So my choice cut is just like your choice of response of like, hey, here's something shitty you did, explain yourself. And you can say like, it was more complicated than that, or I wouldn't have done that now, or all this other stuff. And having to explain yourself back to the game, I think is definitely that's maybe that is the most successful aspect of choices in general across these 5 episodes to me.
I think I'm gonna agree and say the same thing. I hate to just mooch off your answer and copy off your homework, but yeah, I think when you get to this point, you know, like I said, I've just played this so much, I just know exactly what I'm gonna do. Situations like that, you still think about it. Like, it's still what these things you're saying represents rather than like exactly the choice you're making. I think is very strong, and I agree.
Well, we've taken nearly double the amount of time that it took to play the episode to talk about it. Which is not actually a weird thing, but it is abnormal for this podcast.
It's abnormal since longer episodes we don't talk nearly as much about. So I'm glad.
I think it makes sense though, because if an episode is longer and it's really not pulling its weight with the length, it's just like, okay, well, I know what this length is. It's an action scene. It's like I'm trying to. It's the Crawford Catholic School whole situation where like it took forever, but it was just the process of figuring out what to do that was important.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, well,
good episode, good season.
Good game, Dustin. Good game.
Yeah, good game.
We'll be back, as we said, next time to talk about The Walking Dead interlude between seasons 1 and 2, 400 Days. I believe originally included as paid DLC for season 1.
It was a bonus DLC episode after season 1.
Was it free?
No, I believe it was like $5, just like an additional. Because I think when they sold episodes individually, they were like $5 each or around there. So it's just like the price of another episode.
Mm-hmm. Were they $5? That sounds so low.
I think so, because when you buy the season altogether, it's only like $25.
Yeah, but I think that's like a discount. I mean, maybe I think you're right. I hope they charged more, considering that they went out of business. Maybe they didn't. Then that's a problem with it.
Can you imagine playing like one of these episodes for only $5? Like, imagine paying $5 and you get this episode.
I thought you were going to say, imagine just playing episode 4 and nothing else. It's like, well, that seems weird. I don't know. That is how they sold
Even
Sam and Max season 1, though. You get episode 4 and nothing else.
even then, I think even episode 4, even though I think it's the low point of the season, that's still pretty good for $5, I think.
Yeah. I think it's pretty good, Dustin.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I'm already getting anxious about having to edit this 3-hour plus episode, so let's sign off. For the listeners who I told we were going to read your stuff, I'm going to message you in between this episode going live, so you're not just hearing it now. Hope you didn't listen for 3 hours thinking that we were going to talk about your stuff. We're definitely going to talk about it. I'll even make the promise we're going to talk about it up front before we talk about 400 Days next episode.
Hell yeah. I'm so on board.
Yeah, there's like 3 people that we need to talk about their feedback with.
That's awesome, because that's 3 more than we've ever talked about before.
Yeah. Yeah, we're really moving on up. We're like the Jeffersons in that way.
It's all downhill from here.
Well, until next time, we'll see ya.
Goodbye. Keep that hair short. Haha.